Are you ready? High cloud today. Apparently not as much chance of rain as they are suggesting, but I don't know, the weather looks a bit sketchy. 133 kilometers is our distance, but the wall at Valdepeñas de Jaén awaits. It could be explosive. And so how did things pan out yesterday? Well, if you want explosive, what about Primož Roglič? Well, just as Ineos was starting to shine brightly with Carapaz going on the offensive, Roglič decided to skittle away. And then, like Skittles, he unfortunately took a tumble. Got himself back on the bike, and we were just wondering, what on earth was all that about? Hunting down seconds at a difficult time. He was bridged over to by some of his rivals. He put, of course, Bernal and Adam Yates more or less to the sword. Stora, though, taking the win, and Odd Christian Eiking taking the lead. Such was the big gap at the end of the day.
This morning I didn't even think of going to take the leader's jersey. Of course, we were hoping to fight for the stage win. There was a big chance of a breakaway, and it was a big one, and they let us go, or we got so much time that, and I was the best placed GC rider. So with Guillaume Martin breathing in my back, on my back, I had to only keep him off and ride as fast as I could to the finish, and wait for Roglič, and he was too far back. So
even with Guillaume Martin in that climb, because you know he's a very good climber, obviously. You were preparing yourselves?
Yeah, I knew it was going to be really tough to stay with him. If he had really good legs, it would be tough. But I felt pretty strong, and in the end, it was good. Yeah.
And what a Vuelta for your team! I mean, the second red jersey in 10 days of Vuelta for Intermarché.
Yeah, this is beyond our beliefs. Like I said, we came here hoping to get a stage win. We got that, and now two riders in red jersey, and yeah, it's amazing.
And you have to defend it from tomorrow on.
That's it. That's the problem. So we can't take too big part, you know.
So how does it stack up? Here's the new top 10. Guillaume Martin is 58 seconds behind Eiking. And we have the GC contenders, Roglič in third, 2 minutes and 17 behind. Yesterday, Bernal lost 37 seconds, and Roglič, Mas, Lopez and Haig all thrived. So what have we got today for you? Well, it's a short one, shortest of this year's race, in fact. Double climb at the end, though, doesn't look that bad when you look at the altimetry or indeed this map. But believe me, there's one hell of a punch right at the very last. It's not even categorised, can you believe that? Calorie 2, all the way down, almost a roller coaster, and then you kick up to ramps of 20% at the end. Joaquim Rodriguez took this stage back in 2011.
Pues es una etapa complicada,
well, it's a complicated stage, it's a very tough one. The area of Jaén is a mountainous area that doesn't have tough climbs, but it's not exactly Alps, but it's ups and downs, and especially in the final of Valdepeñas, it's very explosive, most explosive of the Vuelta. The wall goes from the smallest percentage and then all of a sudden to the very, very steepest, around 20%. The finish is tough. So what are your memories of the stage? Well, many different memories, because the first time I climbed it, I lost the stage against Igor Anton. He won at the last moment and wasn't able to take it. But then a year later, I could get in the stage win in Jaén, and I had some family there, so it was a double joy that day. Well, what advice would you give to the riders for this day? Well, considering how the Vuelta was going, I think the breakaway can make it until the finish, because I don't think any team will be able to control such a tough stage, especially considering what is left until the end of the Vuelta. But in the peloton can manage the arrival until the finish. It will be explosive. explosive no matter what. The heat is also going to be important. And to save some energy on the day and some strength left in the finish for those 200 crucial metres, that's going to be where the difference is made. So who's your favourites for the win? Primož Roglic is strong, he says, but he could try. But also Miguel Angel Lopez, while Poles, well, the year I won, I think that Poles was second or third. The climb really suits them. Well, it's been busy right from the top of the day, and yet again another extraordinarily fast start. It's taken an awful long time to get some kind of a semblance of order to the peloton, and now it's still not finished. Well, it looks like it might be actually as soon as we say that, because riders taking a comfort break, as you can see. Well, if you're thinking of Aramburu today, then think again. And I've got to tell you that Jesper Philipsen has not started either. That is not good news. So I'm waiting for a double confirmation of that. But that's a real shame, especially for Aramburu, because you would have thought that today's ramp might well actually suit him. More on that as we get it, just coming in. But Plankett, Lastrup, Nielsen, Boe and Van Hoog are your men who've managed to make it into the break. Best placed amongst them, Jonathan Lastra, who is 42 minutes and 16 down. And with 101 kilometres to go, it looks like, at least for the time being, Burgos not happy. Not happy at all. Well, they missed the break yesterday. And to my mind, this is the DS saying, you missed a break of 31. What did I tell you at breakfast? Get in the break. And they've missed it. So, and even worse for them, the other invitee teams, Caja Rural and indeed Euskaltel, have made it. So at the moment, there's a whip being cracked above the heads of Burgos BH, and it's from the team car. So a minute and 22 is the gap. I think that's too much to bridge, especially with temperatures around 32 Celsius. Crosswind today. You know what? They're not giving up. Sean, it's moments like this when you haven't listened to the DS and all of a sudden there's a whole load of punishment rained down upon you from the car.
Yes, well, that is the problem with the teams that want to be in the breakaway. Of course, we can see there Euskaltel, Burgos, very active on the front here, but Burgos is the ones who have missed out. We can see Euskaltel, Caja Rural has a rider up here in this 5-man move, and there have been a lot of moves again in this earlier part of the stage. It's just attack after attack, constant just groups going away, being pulled back, and 130 now for the guys. It's an interesting one, but it's not settled back in the peloton, as we can see. But yeah, it's going to take a good team to close this one down. I don't know if Burgos are good enough at the moment as well. There's a lot of fatigue there with some of the riders, and especially with the smaller teams, because they're the ones that are going to be suffering at this point. And yeah, we can see that just trying to control here. The bigger teams want this one to go, because this is going to be a nice breakaway to allow away. It's not going to be too difficult to control if it's the breakaway of the day.
Certainly looks that way, although it's trimmed, it's kind of hovering, isn't it, the trim, because of the push of Burgos. Using Jesper Philipsen, he's got a fever, so he is out of the race for Alpecin-Phoenix. That's a real shame in terms of that green jersey battle. And Alex Aramburu, who would have been many people's choice today, Benji crying into his Weetabix at the moment. He has knee problems, and as a result of the crash yesterday, he does not start, so that's a real shame. They've thrown the bone meal upon and the lime upon the earth here, just to make it more fertile. Not exactly happy hunting yesterday. It was a hunt by Roglic. I mean, he laid a blow, I guess, upon the likes of Bernal and Adam Yates, but he took a hit himself, and it was a wake-up call, I think, for him. He is an ultimate predator. He could not help himself but go for it, and almost got bitten. Got away with it. We'll have a deeper ponder on that, and indeed what has happened to the challenges of the likes of Landa and a few others who look to be really suffering. Looks like a lockdown to me, just for the time being. Some of you taking a break. We will be back with you a short while later, but staying with those on the Eurosport Player, or indeed on the GCN app. Well, it looks like it's finally settled down, Sean. A lot of fatigue being shown, and two important absentees at the start today, Aaron Burrow and Jesper Philipsen, Sean.
Yes, well, we're coming to the point of the race where I think, if you're starting to suffer a bit, but, those riders, you'd expect them to be, able to stay in there. But we heard Philipsen is, have an illness. You said a temperature, so
fever, yeah.
Yes, not surprising that he's being taken out then, because you cannot continue that. And Aaron Burrow, of course, if you have an injury as well, there's not much you can do. If it's hurting too much and you're suffering too much, well then you have to just decide, make the decision, because you can do more damage by continuing on. And we can see Burgos still starting to push on here. A minute and a half is going out to the leaders on the road, but you can see the fight here between Caharua. They are just marking because they have that man Lastras up there. So it's not settled yet, but they need to get organised here if they're going to close it down, or if they have any chance of doing it. But by attacking in this way, you're not going to close it down. And the discussion is starting here. What's what's happening here?
You're not interested in racing? Oh dear. And that was I kind of feel a bit upset for him, to be honest. Yes. That was a Jumbo-Visma, like, just get in the caboose. Go on, off you pop.
There's Delano there having a discussion. He's not happy with the way they're blocking, I presume, because Jumbo-Visma is just hovering around the front here, and just try and close the ones that are going in the attack now, and to allow this breakaway to be the breakaway of the day, because it's a situation, as I mentioned, it suits the team of Jumbo-Visma. Today is going to be a bit of a complicated day. Jumbo-Visma not race leaders, but again, with the team Intermarché Wanty, you have to be careful in the earlier part, but this is a relatively easy one now with the 5 riders here in front.
There was a moment there, I hope we get a look at the wagging finger. I think it was Tom Pidcock basically wagging the finger at Madrazo, saying, listen to Jumbo-Visma. I think, to be honest, this is my guess, this is my reading of it, Sean, is that Jumbo-Visma says, listen, we're going to take them back late on, because just sit on our wheels and you'll be fine. And Madrazo kind of humbly backed out of it. I think they were basically saying, look, if you're going to go for it, we're just going to chase you down, so you may as well pack it in. I think Tom Pidcock as well said the same thing. Come on, get in line, listen to what Jumbo-Visma are saying. Nice little vignette that for us, Sean.
Yes, well, it was it's the one you see in the race when a breakaway goes and there's a team, you get the call, get the orders from the director of sport, even earful, and they're trying to close it down. Other teams just blocking here. It does get heated moments.
Welcome back, everybody. Some of you have been away. We've just had a lovely moment. not for Rui Hango Madrazo of Burgos BH. He was basically doing what his Team DS had said that he had to do, which is try and close down the gap. And Euskaltel were marking him out, so were Caja Rural, because they've got a man in the break, and Burgos have missed it, and they're not happy as a team. And finally, Jumbo-Visma did a pincer movement on him, came round the front and said, look, pack it in. We're not chasing. We'll chase you, but we're not chasing these guys at the moment. So toe the line. And even Tom Pidcock came up, wagged his finger as if to say, come on, knock it off. You missed it. Hard luck.
And that's a difficult one to take for the smaller teams who want to be in the breakaway. They're getting the orders. Get moving, try and get across to that breakaway immediately, when it was at that less than a minute and 30, and we did see Burgos were trying at their best, but unfortunately they just hadn't got the power there to be able to close it down, and those 5 riders working well together. And when the big teams are just following you and sitting you, it does become a problem. And not surprised we see the discussions there.
Poor lad, still feel sorry for him.
saying. Get in, mate, you legend. You absolute legend.
Parece que Storer ha sido el ganador de etapa.
Oh, mate.
Winner of the stage.
Good job, man!
Can't believe it.
Congrats.
Now we have to Rincon back in the front of the van.
Now you're back in the front. Good job.
My question is just what was the mood like on the bus at Intermarché 1? I imagine they were hooping and hollering. Did you see Louis Meintjes' interview at the end of yesterday's stage, Sean?
No.
He did not look happy at all. He cruised in and he agreed to answer questions. They were saying, the jersey, you've got the jersey back again. It's phenomenal after Ryan Taramay and now of course old Christian Eiking. And he went, his answer was so dry and full of deflation. I was actually thinking, and Dan Lloyd said the same thing, but Louis Meintjes was, it was apparently like almost his bubble had been burst. Two of my mates have worn the red jersey. I guess sportsmen are natural predators, Sean, and Louis Meintjes would have desperately loved, I'm sure, to be happy for his teammates. But I'm afraid there just appeared to be not a little jealousy mixed in with it right there, at least at the beginning when he was spoken to at the end of the line. I was actually wondering why that would be. Maybe he's thinking, look, his teammates are bidding for their own glory at the moment and he's the man that needs backup when we get to the mountains. But I don't know, it's not always joyous when one of your teammates, and it's not you, gets the plaudits, I guess.
But that can be a problem, Carlton, when the team is doing well, but he's not the leader of the team in the GC standing, and that would be Meintjes. You would be expecting. He's there in 15th place, but he's quite a long way down at what's around the six and just under 7 minutes actually. Maybe he's thinking that today he might have to do some riding in the final for the race leader Eiking, and possibly not happy with that, because if you have got to do a big amount of work, well then he could lose a lot more time, and maybe he's thinking at the moment 15th place in the GC standings, and he is going well. The last days we've seen him in the mountain stages, very much up there in the action with the GC favours, so possibly thinking, I'm going to lose out here, I might have to do some work tomorrow.
Maybe that's what it was. I mean, in a way it fell into the lap of old Christian Eiking, because of course Jumbo Visma didn't chase yesterday. They were happy to see the jersey go to somebody of a member of an enormous breakaway, of which the best placed at 9 minutes and 10 was indeed on Christian Eiking. So it was almost by fortune really, but Louis Meintjes wasn't celebrating yesterday. I think he was probably doing the maths, Sean, and thinking, look, these are my helpers that are getting the plaudits here. Of course, if Louis Meintjes had gone in the breakaway, it wouldn't have happened. So it's just one of those things. You almost have to take the rough with the smooth, even if it's smooth for your teammate, Sean. It can feel rough.
Yes, well, sometimes we see that between teammates, there's rivalry there, and it's not the way that you're going to get the support of your team for later. You have to be prepared to be happy when the other riders in the team are doing well, and of course the riders that maybe not expected to be up there in the limelight and be race leader, but you have to get on with that. And I think your turn comes around, and you have to just fold up your sleeves there, and if the occasion arises that you have to ride for him in the end to hold on to the red jersey, and that's what Intermarché are going to do. They're going to try and hold on today, and they should be able to hold on, because I think Christian Eiking is a good climber. The advantage he has over Roglic is over 2 minutes. So with the finish today, if it goes down to the final ramp, it's not too active in the earlier climb. He should be able to hold on, I think, for today and be in the red jersey at the end of the evening.
Look at the high ground that dots around the place here. We're going to be playing with some of that at the end of today's stage, but it'll be rolling until we get there. Let's speak to Nico Roche, who will be having in the commentary position a little bit later on. These are his thoughts on DSM.
So I think DSM is having a brilliant Vuelta, a little bit in the same way as they had the Tour de France last year, where there was no focus on the GC and it was just flat out for breakaways. It is risky when you do that, because you can have so many scenarios coming into the breakaway and be beaten, but this time around Michael has managed to get two in the first 10 days, so fair play to him. The aggressive way of racing has always been something, that gives that little bit more of a chance when you race defensive. As a GC team, it's very difficult to go and get those stage wins, and it requires a lot of commitment from a team, as we've seen in the Giro, for example, where there's just one single goal behind Romain Bardet. I think this time around, going aggressive, when Romain has said that he wasn't going to go for GC, has been a fair and a very, very good pick. I think over the next few stages we'll see more of that. You can't always get the win, but I think the next 2 or 3 days is kind of open for breakaways, and then next week again we'll see in the higher mountains, but there's more limited for the riders. We will not be able to see as many riders in breakaways, because it'll be just that bit more challenging to make it on those steep climbs.
And indeed, as we all know, Nico as well, we'll be asking him about it a little bit later today, kind of suits Romain Bardet. It could be a big feast for DSM over these last few days. And Michael Storer, I mean, we've been aware of him, Sean, but 2 wins in just a handful of days has been magnificent for DSM.
Yes, well, it's been a dream race, Vuelta for DSM. Coming here with Bardet as the general classification man, and of course we see him with that big crash into Albacete, losing a huge amount of time and going out. But then he was in the breakaway the following day or 2 days later, and it looked like he could challenge for a stage win. But Storer, what a dream he's having, and he's just come into form at the right time. We talked about it yesterday. He won the overall in the Tour de Lane, he won the points classification, he won the mountain classification there outright. So that just tells that the form was coming real good, and he's carrying it into this race. And he did say yesterday after the stage, of course, targeting a stage win, but now winning a second one. And often we see that when a guy gets a stage win, if he's in the real shape of his life, and that's what Michael Storer is in. He's just flying at the moment, and won it yesterday in a fashion where it was a fight between the strongest men out of that big 31 man breakaway, and what a performance he put up on the final ramp there, and just rode away from some really big names in the race this year.
It's magnificent. Well, we talk about form, especially as it's so difficult to read on disjointed seasons that we've had back to back due to COVID and the strictures that's put on everybody. Some have survived it and thrived. Others indeed have must lament its coming. But then again, other form, you kind of wonder, scratch your head a little bit and start asking yourself as to where it may have gone. And you've got to ask the question of Egan Bernal at the moment. Adam Yates, we know his form can vary just a little bit. I'm hoping that he indeed starts to punch deeper into this race, but Adam is now 5 minutes and 1 second down, and Egan Bernal 4 minutes and 46. And of the two, I'd probably think the backing should go to Adam Yates, to be honest, the way that Bernal is riding, just for the time being. It's a difficult situation for Ineos at the moment, Sean, that's for sure.
Yes, it is. It has been difficult in the last number of days, and especially on the Sunday stage. That's where we see them.
Oh, whoa. Touch of wheels into a corner, one of those moments, and it looks like everyone is quick to get themselves back on their bikes. So looks like no foul, no favour on that one, thank goodness. They'll be back and underway. Just checking the bikes and checking themselves, Sean, but largely okay, I think.
Yes, it looked like, did they touch wheels or did they slide out on the corner? And we can see there, that a number of riders getting tangled and going down, but it's never, when you're in a bike race, you never want to be on the deck, but unfortunately those things happen, and we can see most of the riders up very quickly without any problems mechanical, but we can see Simmons here is just having to wait for the team car.
Yeah, a little bit of a bloodied knee. By the way, it's a knee injury that's taken Alex Aramburu out. Sean, we were just pondering Ineos Grenadiers there while you were finishing off your point. I'm sure you made it completely. But yesterday, Richard Carapaz looked lively, and I'm wondering whether he might actually be given a little bit of free rein today, the Olympic champion, to have a dig, because today's finale may well suit him. It could bring some joy at least.
Well, I think Carapaz was the rider here for the GC, but unfortunately he is struggling, and we see on the difficult stages he was definitely not anything like he was in the Tour of France. At the Olympics he had an unbelievable performance there, and he's been going for a long time. The Tour of Swiss he won, of course, in the early part of the season before the Tour of France, so he's been in top shape, and difficult to hold that for many weeks. So I think he's just gone off the boil at the moment, and unfortunately that card they were not able to play it within Ineos, and Bernal Yates suffering a little bit.
To my mind, Carapaz actually has still got something, a fire in his belly, and you don't become an Olympic champion without having that. When Valverde crashed, it was Carapaz that animated it along with Valverde, and then backed out of it. And yesterday as well, just before Roglic went, it was Carapaz that was just starting to change the pace as well. I think if you're looking for a spark within Ineos, then look no further than Carapaz at the moment. I think he's so far behind himself. He's 22 minutes and 24 down. I guess if anyone was going to have a go and be allowed to do so, it might well be him. But hey, let's see at the end of today, shall we? Minute and 42. Just coming by what look like eucalyptus leaves here, but they're much bigger plants. So I don't know. Maybe it's orange blossoms, that kind of thing. We're beyond that season. Although you'll get a box of them at Christmas, usually from your uncle, like it's some kind of gift. Honestly, it's not a gift, it's just fruit. But anyway, take it when you can get it. No gifts in this game. And yesterday, Roglic, what was he up to, Sean? Going on the attack at a moment like that after just letting the day go away from it. Was it a statement, simple as that?
Yes, I think it was a statement. And when you attack on a climb like that, and we did hear from Engels, the DS with the team of Jumbo-Visma, he was talking about he was in super shape, he felt real good, he had that need to attack, and you can do that on the uphill. And although I was questioning why do we have to deal with the situation he was in at this point in the race, still a lot of difficult days to come, and it's all about trying to conserve energy when you can. But he hit out and got the advantage, and nobody was able to get near him on the climb. But on the descent, he was taking so much risk. Like the previous 2 or 3 corners, you could see the way he was going into them. He was really pushing it, and I was really surprised that he continued on at that rate. Get down to the descent at a good pace, but certainly take it at a speed where you're in control and you're not really pushing the danger out big time. And unfortunately he did come down, and luckily he came out with well, because only scratches, because that could have been a crash that put him out of the race, and then we'll be saying, why was he doing that? And I did question it yesterday. I just felt that it was a mad move to do that and take the risk on the descent. But yeah, it makes good viewing, and that is what Roglic is like. He just he's a rider that goes in the attack and not afraid to have a go. But at the end of the day, I think the team would prefer that he rides a bit more careful when you can do that. Of course, there's times when you have to take risks, but yesterday there wasn't any real reason to do it.
Welcome back, everybody. Just pondering the reasons, the whys and wherefores of Roglic's attack yesterday. Just coming after Carapaz went lively again, as Carapaz had done indeed a couple of days earlier when Valverde crashed. It was Carapaz that was busy as part of that action as well. In fact, Carapaz, both Ecuadorians, Narvaez as well was working well, Narvaez yesterday. So yeah, let's see. Interesting that the chasing duty at the moment, it's not exactly skittling away, not like yesterday. With 85 kilometres to go, we've got a minute and 51, and so maybe the advice that was offered up to Madrazo of Burgos when he was trying to make a bridge by Jumbo, saying, look, just pack it in because we're going to tee this up for us later on. And it seems as well that Bike Exchange are equally minded to be involved at the end today, because Michael Matthews, many people's pick for a decent finish today, if not winning it. So we shall see. Man has had a great deal of experience, of course. Heard from him already, and we'll be hearing from him a little bit later on as well. Nico Roche, who knows this climb at the end of today only too well. In fact, it was a big old battle that Nico had on that very peak when Dani Moreno indeed won it in 2013. Valverde was runner-up that day, so it's a shame that he's not here either. Rodriguez, Perito, finishing in third place ahead of Nico Roche, and ceded the leader's jersey by a solitary second. That's a man who works in a weather station, and you can see all the lightning strikes marked there by crucifix. I think that's probably just to keep it at bay. Should we have a look at the predictor for today? Who thinks is going to do what? Well, it wasn't a good day for the predictors yesterday. Closest one was Dan Lloyd with Baggioli, 18th on the stage. Can they do better today? Let's speak to Alberto Conte.
Well, for me, today's candidate, he says, is to win on stage 11 in the Vuelta España in Valdepeñas de Jaén is Jan Tratnik. He's from Team Bahrain Victorious, a very strong rider. Obviously, his role will be to support his teammates, but considering that today's stage will suit the breakaway, he might take part in it in order to win. So, my prediction goes for Tratnik.
Stage 11, my prediction is going to go to Primož Roglic. Yes, he might have crashed yesterday, but I don't think that's going to stop him trying to get that red jersey back. He is definitely the best climber in the race, and I think on this final climb, he will be the first to the top.
And David Moncoutier says today at Valdepeñas, I'm going to pick the Wout Poels. Why him? First, because I think that the breakaway will make it to the end, like yesterday, and the stage is hilly enough for him to take the break. Plus, the final suits him very well. Yesterday, there were no Bahrain Victorious up front. See how he goes.
Deze rit gaat gewonnen worden door Andreas Kroon.
Carsten Kroon is going for Andreas Kroon.
Zeker geen rit voor de sprinters en ook niet voor de klassementsrenners.
Stage has lots of altitude. Definitely not a stage for the pure sprinters. It's neither a stage for the GC men. So a good stage for a breakaway to stay away. Today, I think that Andy Kroon will be there. He also said he has a very cool name. I don't know what Kroon means in Dutch, but anyway, probably means glorious. 2 minutes and 6. Don't forget, if you'd like to add your own tuppenny worth, then here it is. haven't said that word for many years. Roglic, 47% of you think he'll win. Jack Haig, 14, that's good. Miguel Angel Lopez, 9. Michael Storer, that's good, 12%. Or somebody else, 18. I think I'll probably go with 18%, to be honest. So, yeah, with those who have formulated 18%. In fact, that's not that far away from the maximum gradients that we're going to be dealing with at the end of today. It is going to be scary. We're talking ramps of 20%, and that's no laughing matter when you will have ridden through some heat today, and it's hovering around 31 Celsius. Heat's having an impact. It's a shame that a lot of riders just say that they're having difficulty sustaining it. We've seen a few come to the end of the day, and I'm just wondering whether they've sort of misfed or not taken on enough fluids. Right now, we have a breakaway, but it is not as... I was going to say it's not as committed as it was yesterday, but that's unfair. It's not been allowed the same rain as it was yesterday. Planket, Lastra, Magnus Court, Jon Boel and Harm van Hoek. Now, if you were going to pick a favourite at the beginning of the day, Magnus Court would probably have been amongst them, and he has made it into the break. Now, this bodes very well for Magnus Court. It doesn't bode very well for just about anybody else out here. He is an hour and 10 minutes down, so he's not a great threat. But that's a dangerous man to have up the road, Sean.
Yes, well, he is a one. When he gets into a breakaway, he can finish it. We've seen him already in this Vuelta. He's done it, got his stage victory, and in real fine style the way he won it, because it was just in the balance in that final number of kilometres, and the way he held on to hold off the GC guys who were really going for it behind him on that final 2 kilometres uphill to the line. He is in good shape, and yesterday he was my pick, of course, for the stage. Unfortunately, I was beaten by Dan Lloyd because Bagnoli finished, I think, 3.5 minutes ahead of him. But I think Magnus Court, when he see that he wasn't really up to it yesterday, then he just knocked it off and decided maybe today could be another occasion for him, and for that reason, he did not beat Dan Lloyd's pick of the day.
Well, maybe he listened to you, Sean, because of course he's had a great race so far. He won into Cuela, and don't forget how that one finished. It was a wall at the end, essentially. I know it's not the same sort of pitches and inclines that we've got today, but it was certainly a test. Primož Roglic finished runner-up to him then, and I wouldn't be surprised if we have a little bit more of a sense of that later on today. Court will finish well. Let there be no doubt. Whether he can win today, I'm not sure, because it's being held for the time being, Sean. They're wary of this break and I guess the chopped and changes that have happened so far.
Yes, well, I think that's the surprising one that Jumbo-Visma are riding here, because you'd expect them to just sit back and allow the team of race leader Interwanti Gobert to just do the chasing at this point, but they are very much riding at a strong pace. I thought they were just riding to allow the breakaway to slowly creep out and to stop the attacks there, because we see it was getting heated for a while with the teams that missed it. Burgos were trying to get across there, and I thought they would just ride for a time and then allow that breakaway slowly to get that 3, 4, 5 minutes, and then knock it off more and allow the team of race leaders to take it up. But they're still very much involved here from the team Jumbo-Visma, and that is an interesting one now, because this gap is not going out as you would expect it. Just they're working real well here, but it's just 2 minutes, and that's going to be a difficult one. At this stage is a real difficult one. It's up and down all day. It's a real leg breaker. So in the final, unless they have quite a big advantage, it's going to be really hard to hold on out there.
It's been quick so far, 47 kilometres per hour, and that's with climbing, Sean. This is no laughing matter today.
No, it's not. It's going to be another leg break of a day, and in the end, if it comes back to a fight for the GC guys and other riders thinking of the stage, well, then it's going to be a real hard day again.
Let's remind ourselves of the standing overall. We'll speak to Ali Engels in a few moments' time, but Odd Christian Eiking leads the race ahead of Guillaume Martin, both of whom were in the break yesterday, that monster break of 31 riders. Primož Roglic in third place, but compared to Mas and Lopez, he's in a happy place. It's an unhappy place, I'm afraid, for for Adam Yates and indeed Egan Bernal. Egan Bernal 4 minutes and 46 down, but look at the gap between Roglic and Bernal. It's growing. Likewise for Adam Yates, who's been sitting at the back of the peloton today. So, how to deal with the situation? It's a tough one. In fact, most teams here will be pondering about what they can get out of the rest of this race. And as you can see, Team Bike Exchange as well are busy sharing the duties just for the time being, which is why the breakaway's been held to less than 2 minutes. So maybe the advice that they offered to Burgos and Madrazo, which was stop trying to bridge over to the break because we'll take you up there anyway. You can have some fun a little bit later. Tell you what, it has made us talk about Burgos though, hasn't it? Here's Eddie Engels.
So we're joined now by Adi Engels, of course, the DS of Team Jumbo-Visma. First of all, how is Primoz doing after the crash yesterday?
He's okay. He's doing well. Just some small scratches, but nothing serious. He's okay.
What were the tactics yesterday? Because we were all a bit surprised by that action.
Yes. So were we, actually. Not at the moment when it happened, of course. I mean, we knew it was coming, but before the start, I also explained we were happy with the situation, and the tactics were to maintain the situation as it was. Then, of course, we had a really big breakaway after a really long and hard fight. And then the first switch in the tactics was actually that it was really a good opportunity again to give away the jersey, which we did. And then Primoz himself, he came up with the idea to try to attack. He felt really strong, he said, and it's a Grand Tour. I said yesterday before the start, we have to be alert every day. Every moment can happen something, but of course also that goes the other way. You can also try something yourself and to surprise. And that in the end was okay. We had a quick talk about it, Grisha and me, and if he feels that strong, and if your leader says he feels that strong and he wants to try, then I'm not the guy, and also Grisha is not the guy to say stop. Sometimes you can't stop until you get to the top, and we're hoping that is the case today. A little more populous, as you can see, as we get to some of the more verdant parts of Spain after coming through the empty quarter, and this is absolutely spectacular. Wonderful. Well, no wonder so many riders live and love and thrive in this part of the world. Sean Kelly, of course, a Vuelta winner. And let's remind ourselves, of course, that Nico Roche back in 2013 was wearing the leader's jersey. Unfortunately, had to hand it over on this day back then. Nico, I'm sure it holds some fond memories apart from uncomfortable ones as well for you, but you certainly know how this climb pans out, having experienced it yourself. I think you were fourth that day, weren't you?
Yeah, it's bad memories, but I still managed to do a good result there, so it's mixed feelings, but Dani Moreno took it with the bonus points, but it's a beautiful area. I've done it 3 times, and 3 times went pretty well for me. I've always kind of raced pretty good in Andalusia. They're very, very tricky roads, very slippy roads. You can see so many olives, which also means there's all this grease on the road provided from the olive oils. It's a very, very tricky descent into the final climb.
It's true. And olive oil in Spain, by the way, is exported to places, say this quietly, it's exported to places like Italy, and then they then badge it up. It just says product of the European Union. But the best olive oil comes from Spain. Nick will back me up on that. It's absolutely spectacular, and of course they're busy growing it here. Unfortunately, when the tractors go in to the fields, there's olive spill, and of course they crush them on the wheels, and that puts a nice little sheen of olive oil on the roads for you to play with, Nico. Catches a few out. Roglic caught out, I think it was by dust yesterday, actually. Back in the Vuelta, of course, back then in 2013, Nico Roche finished in 5th place in that year's top 5 for that year's Vuelta. Yeah, disappointment perhaps, but of course he knows how this climb is going to be attacked, and we're going to be picking his brain. As some of you go off to a commercial break, we're going to be getting the nuggets on the Eurosport Player and indeed on the GCN app. That's what you pay for. The olive trees of the Cordoba area, or is it Cordobera? So, Nico, how do you approach a climb like, and indeed percentages like 20%? Is it a case of just getting yourself in the best position you can before it, because those inclines are just a coping pace?
Well, especially this one, because like I said, the descent is very, very tricky. It's a very short moment between the descent and the bottom of the climb, but Valdepeñas is very, very, very narrow. There's no room for moving back up, so positioning is absolutely key. If you're not at the bottom in the top 10, 15 to the maximum, it's very difficult to get around the guys to play the victory.
This section of the race, I actually thought was going to be a sort of the soft underbelly really of the entire course, with the major climbing backstacked to the end. But Sean, we've had so much drama in this race, and even the quiet days have gone very, very loud indeed, and we've come to expect the unexpected every single day, haven't we?
Yes, and yesterday was a perfect example of that. We had that big breakaway way out the road, and I was expecting to be a relatively calm day between the GC men, but you never know. And Roglic, he put the scares on us all on that descent. First of all, on the climb, I was saying, what's he doing? Why is he attacking here? And you're going to have to make that descent. 15, 16 kilometres approx to the finish on his own. All those efforts, they can catch you in the final week of the race. And then the descent, the way he went, it was scary, and you could see that he was really taking big risk, and he just lost it there in the corner, too much speed on, but it came good from at the end of the day, luckily. The Vuelta is that sort of race, and today, as Nico said, the stage, it's going to be a real difficult one now, because 1:37 to the breakaway, and you can see Bike Exchange are riding, the team of the Primož Roglic, Jumbo-Visma riding here, and the team of the race leader, who are going to be happy with the situation, because for Intermarché, Wanty, they are going to be real happy that the other teams want to ride here and control the breakaway. That's not what they would do if they were allowed to control on the front on their own. They would just allow this breakaway to go away, because you mentioned Carlton, the best man, I think he's about 42 minutes down. The rest are well over an hour down in this 5-man group, and now it's going to be a situation where it's going to be a fight again for the stage win between the GC men and some of the other riders who feel that they can do something, notably Bike Exchange here. They have tried a lot of different ways to try and get a stage victory with Michael Matthews. He's riding really well, very close on a number of times, and it looks like they feel that they can do the business here today.
Let's see if it happens. Welcome back. Our breakaway's holding station at the moment, but only at about a minute and a half. It's a strange one, but clearly I think Roglic wants to win today, especially after yesterday, I guess. Joan Apia Lopez has just picked himself up a puncture. Ed Blanket, by the way, who's also in the break, very good one-day man, but also took himself a stage on the Tour of Burgos recently, which a lot of people use as a yardstick really to measure coming into this race. The 26-year-old from Alpecin Fenix, of course, have had their own glory, spectacularly so, with Jasper Philipsen. Unfortunately, he is now out of the race, so taking his 2-stage wins with him, but taking no further part due to fever, which is a real shame. Also up here, we've got Jonathan Lastra. Now, he's no slouch either, and he's had... he's a very strong multi-tool, I think it's fair to say. He's got a bit of pace about him. He's a decent climber, and so I think he could actually also be very much part of a drive if indeed they're suddenly allowed their head, but I can't see it at the moment. Magnus Cort we know so much about. Johan Boo is also a climber, but doesn't really have that kick to him. although he has placed well in the past in the likes of the Vuelta overall, and indeed Tour of Catalonia. But I think he's possibly a little bit outclassed here. I say that quietly because you never know on a day like this. And the 24-year-old Harm van Hoek is also up there, and he's had podium stage success on a couple of occasions within the Giro, and in fact the last of those was to Montalcino, which is very peaky, but it was a downhill finish, I believe, when Mauro Schmidt won in this year's Vuelta. That was stage 11. But Harm van Hoek, as a youngster for Lotto Soudal, massive prospect, runner-up, don't forget, in the Tour de l'Ain. So yeah, he's on decent form, and those 2 times third places on the Giro speak volumes for the youngster from Belgium. So a win can come from any quarter, especially it seems in this race. It's hard to predict, but at the moment the predictions look like, Sean, they may well be swinging towards the GC players and Roglic in particular today, the way this is being ridden.
Yes, well, we did see the predictions earlier on in the programme. Some were thinking of a breakaway, others were thinking of the stage between the peloton and the main favourites, and went for Primož Roglic. So it was always going to be a bit in the balance, as it was yesterday as well. Would it be the breakaway that will get away? And today you would go more for the breakaway. You would expect the guys that are out here to be allowed to get a big advantage and then go on and challenge for the stage win here. But unfortunately it's not working out here, and I think the 5 men who made the breakaway after a big fight again today to get into it are going to be majorly disappointed, because they know now at 1:26, and the man up there, Magnus Kort, as we talked about, he is going to be, I think, a big disappointment, because he would feel here in this breakaway he can he could win the stage if they were allowed to have that advantage. But now it looks like that it's going to be controlled here, and it will be between the main peloton, the fight, and that makes it real dangerous for all the GC men, because as Nico said, this run-in is going to be a very important one, and the descent into the final climb, you have to be in that top 5 or 7 places, and the teams are going to be aware of that. The GC men are going to be aware of that. It's going to be a big battle, and the risk of crashes again, getting into that position, are going to be high.
I'm just wondering when we're going to find ourselves seeing that battle rage. I think it's going to be straight through the sprint, to be honest, because there's a downhill that leads us to our category 2, and then of course that descent to the foot of the business end of the day. Let's check out our youth classification at the moment. Egan Bernal is in the white jersey with the green accents. I can't imagine that would be an acceptable target for him. A man, of course, who's won the Tour de France and the Giro and wanted to make it a trident of Grand Tour victories with one here. It doesn't look like it's going to happen. Not yet, anyway. And today, you kind of look at Ineos Grenadiers and you wonder whether they will have an option on the day. I'm not so sure, but it'd be great if they proved us wrong by the end of the day. At the moment, Egan Bernal sits 4 minutes and 46 down in the general classification, but in comparison to Roglic, who sits at 2 minutes and 17, it's a big old deficit, I'm afraid. So it's not going to be a happy hunting ground, it seems, anyway, for Bernal. Long way to go, but they need to find time in his Grenadiers, and particularly Bernal, before we get to our time trial at Santiago de Compostela, which finishes this race. And finding time on Roglic at the moment seems like an absolute devil of a conundrum. What about Alexander Vlasov? He's running second in the young riders class.
Alexander Vlasov has joined us now. Alexander, how about this Vuelta so far? How would you look back on these first 9-10 stages?
It was hard. I had good days and also bad days. So now I am not in top 10 in the GC, but I am near. So it's more important stage to come. So I'm just waiting for the mountains and to hope to be with the best.
So then this second week will be a bit more on survival, then to start off with the third week in the mountains next week?
I think the next days will be more intensive, and also difficult stages are to come, so I'm not in the best shape, and so I hope to do my best in these days.
So you're only 30 seconds away from Bernal in the white jersey. Would that be also a goal for you in this Vuelta?
Yeah, of course, I hope. We will see in the next days how he feels, but also he had a bad day, also me, so it will be interesting to see in the next days.
What do you expect from today?
Just not to lose time to arrive together.
Will it be a hard day, I guess, with this special final?
Yeah, it will be short and intensive day.
Short intensive. You like short and intensive or not?
Yeah. Yes, not bad.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Well, I'm not quite sure what we found out there. Certainly how tough it's been. Sean, we're going to bid you a fond farewell. We'll be welcoming you back a little bit later. I understand Dan Lloyd's just getting himself into position as we speak. Meanwhile, Nico, this finale that we're going to be dealing with today, you've got to be in a good position by the time you get to the crest of the Category 2 test, which will, as you've said, that will take us on that technical descent down to that very narrow and punchy finale at the end of the day. Do you think the attacks are going to range in before then? I'm kind of looking at the way the terrain opens up on the plateau with the intermediate sprint. Couple of little, it almost looks like a roller coaster today. And then we'll start to head down to the foot of our Category 2 test. And that begins with, 16 or so kilometres to go. So I'm thinking a race through the sprint in order to get to the descent to take on that penultimate climb. Am I reading too much into it?
So, I think we've seen a bit of a revolution in the last couple of months or year, actually, since we're back racing after COVID, where years ago out of saying no, the bunch now will just slow down, give the breakaway another 30-40 seconds to bring it up to 2 minutes, because that's what more or less they lose in the last 20 or 30k. But today we've seen already so many times in races where when the gap is just approachable from the peloton to the breakaway, where guys start attacking from behind regardless of how far you are from the finish. So at the moment it's very difficult to think, okay, maybe someone's going to go, because we can see the peloton's very stretched, the pace is high, but you're always open that maybe we could see some racing going from behind. But I don't think so today. I think today will be quite controlled. We see a lot of teams in the front, the pace is high, and everyone's just kind of saving energy as much as possible for the final approach.
Well, it could well be war. Let's see. By the time we're heading for Caceres, I think it's going to get very, very lively. But as you can see, it's either climbing or descending at the moment. Dan, are you with us?
I am indeed.
Very little flat today. In fact, I don't think I've seen a single moment where we've actually been cruising at any point. It's either climbing or descending. I know it's gentle, but this is going to be extraordinarily wearing. And the temperature's high again. We've had sickness starting to show its hand as well, with Jesper Philipsen going out with fever. These are tough days. If this was a soft underbelly, which I referred to this race, how wrong was I? The way they're being raced, it's punishing.
Short and intense today's stage. I think it's the shortest of the whole race in terms of road stages, isn't it? But like you said, constantly up and down and being ridden at a ferocious pace as well. Nico and I were just watching on in another room whilst you and Sean were commentating at the start of our broadcast today, and saying, it's got to be hard when you see riders getting dropped on these climbs. There's still 80 kilometres to go. This is not a day where you form a gruppetto. This is a day where you just want to get through it with the front bunch, and maybe on that last second category climb you just form a gruppetto there or just cruise in, but you don't want to be getting dropped with 80 k's to go, because it's going to be a very, very long day for you then. But it's a sign of how intense it's been. And we were also discussing how bizarre it is to see Jumbo-Visma riding on the front, when you'd imagine that the whole idea of giving away the red jersey was so they didn't have to do that.
The conundrum that is Jumbo-Visma at the moment is a very difficult one to fathom. I mean, you were asking questions as we were both together live yesterday on Roglic Attack, when he's prepared to cede seconds and indeed hand over bonuses within this race, it seems. He's very hard to predict. I guess that's what makes him such an enigma, it seems, even to his own team. Speaking to Eddie Engels earlier, we heard the interview, and I mean, the view was that they were going to hand over the jersey, and then all of a sudden he decided to have a secondary battle. And the amount that he was putting into the descent yesterday was, I think, precocious at best. Maybe it was just a display of confidence. I think that's what Addy Angles was describing, was that when a rider is feeling comfortable and within his own range and is feeling that his rivals are suffering, then, to hell with it, let's just have a go.
And fair dues, they were suffering on the climb. They couldn't keep up with him. It's more the descent and the risks that we've been chatting about, isn't it? And it was interesting in his interview that he said, who is he to tell Primož Roglic what to do? That's kind of his job in some ways, just to sort of guide him through and assert your authority when you think you're right and going to make a better decision than the rider on the road. So I thought that was a strange comment, but he gives us some good quotes, Addy Angles, over the years, doesn't he?
He does. He's an open book, and I love that. And there are some riders that are quite locked down. Your comment yesterday, but I was just pondering earlier on, I don't know whether you caught it, about Louis Meintjes yesterday and his apparent disappointment, or that's unkind. It wasn't. He didn't express disappointment, but he wasn't exactly fulsome in his praise for his teammates. Of course, second jersey that they've taken. Odd Christian Eiking now in the lead of this race after having the good fortune to be in the break. Something that would never have been in the gift of Louis Meintjes. He's just too good and too close to have been allowed that kind of leeway. Odd Christian, of course, the best placed man in the breakaway yesterday, over 9 minutes down. Who'd have thought he would be in red? I don't think he did. But now he's there. Louis Meintjes, I think, is probably worried about how much work he's going to have to do on behalf of his teammates who happen to be in red, rather than they working for him, with the possibility of closing the gap to red down.
Yeah, he said all the right things in his interview, Louis, didn't he? Just didn't have much enthusiasm with the way that he was saying them. But it was a long day, it was a hard day in the saddle. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm sure he is pleased for his teammate. And also, to be fair, in the interview that we eventually got with Odd Christian Eiking himself, he wasn't much more enthusiastic, to be honest, about going into the red jersey. So he had to have a small party with the team yesterday evening. But great for that squad to be in the red jersey again. I think I said yesterday, but I had my doubts as to how much success they would have this year in their first year as a World Tour squad. They haven't got the big names that a lot of other teams have got, and I particularly feared for them at the Grand Tours, but they've proven me wrong, and I'm glad to see it. They've had a very successful Giro d'Italia, didn't quite get their name on the board, I don't think, at the Tour de France, but twice in the leader's jersey here, and a stage win. It's been a great Vuelta for them already, halfway through.
Yeah, absolutely magnificent. And I must say, Tanico Rocha, of course, rides for DSM. What an amazing tour it's been for them as well. Michael Storer, Nico, we talk about him almost hiding in full view, but he's turning himself into a real golden prospect, and he seems to be riding within himself apart from anything else. And 2 stage wins within a handful of days is quite remarkable.
Yes, totally. I mean, he's really matured this year. And I think the Giro gave him, already the Tour of the Alps pre-Giro gave him quite some confidence. He really performed at the highest level during the Giro, and after that he was just keen to kind of, give it a go for himself, and he did that in Tour de l'Ain. And I mean, to be riding like that so confidently now in the Vuelta, it's great to see him at that level.
I mean, it's a team with an abundance of riches, and we'll count you as one of the gems. We were expecting a lot from Romain Bardet all of a sudden, because he seems to have found a real peace within Team DSM and allowing him to thrive almost. And we were saying how a change of team can reinvigorate a rider. He most certainly seems to be, and today might be a day that might just suit Romain. How is he, by the way? Do you know?
He's okay. Yeah, he's still suffering a little bit from the crash earlier on in the race, but he seems quite motivated. I think that over the next stages he'll be able to pull something out.
Well, it'd be lovely if he does, and bring yet more joy to a team that is not necessarily front and centre on most people's radar, but then again we're kind of getting used to that, with Intermarché Wanty producing a couple of leaders of this race, and DSM with 2 stage wins as well. It's what's turning the Vuelta into a real entertainment platform, really. The drama, it just comes thick and fast, and if you look at the pace that's being instilled at the moment in the chase, this is about Jumbo-Visma, and is it going to be a head-to-head today between Primož Roglic and indeed Michael Matthews? Well, it looks like both teams want to play a part, most certainly. Right, let's hear from Guillaume Martin, shall we? Been waiting for him for quite a while. Second overall, could have been in the lead of this race if it wasn't for that pesky old Christian Eiking also being in the break. Here he is. Well, we're here with second place in the general standings, Guillaume Martin. You told us yesterday that your new goal is to wear the red jersey. So how are you going to do that?
Comment s'y prendre quand on est deuxième du général comme ça, on va pas forcément avoir le bon de sortie.
Well, his question is clearly longer than mine.
C'est sûr que ça va pas se faire par miracle.
Well, it won't be a miracle. There's no magic about it. I just need to be present and hope that old Christian Eiking has a difficult day. After yesterday's efforts, you never know. I don't know if today's finish will be tough enough to make some big differences. I just hope that I can be part of the game at the end of today, and you never know. I might just be able to take an option on the red jersey either today or indeed in the upcoming days.
Essayer de prendre le maillot aujourd'hui ou dans les jours qui viennent.
Prendre le maillot rouge, ça va pas vous.
Well, the goal of the red jersey will not prevent you from getting a stage victory, because I guess that must still be a goal for you. Do you think you'll be allowed to? He said it depends on my legs and of course the view of everybody else. So far I haven't felt that I've got the right legs to win a stage, but I still have hope to do so in the upcoming days. So you never know. Day by day these things can happen. So you will follow old Christian Eiking and try to drop him by staying with the favourites. Trying to jimmy open the can of strategy here. He said, I think it'll be a mistake to focus on one single rider, to be honest, so I just need to do my race, and if things happen, they happen. There are many good riders, and we'll have lots of battles to the finish every single day, and I just have to give my best in those finals, and simple as that, just we will see. Well, there it is. Possibilities will open up for him, and is today one of those possibilities? Well, not meaning to bring up disappointments of old, but Nicholas Roach finished in 4th place in 2013. We've only been to today's finale 3 times, by the way. Dani Moreno took it that day. Valverde was runner-up. He's not here and would have loved today, I'm certain, had he still been riding. And Perito Rodriguez finished 3rd. Nicholas Roach finished 4th, just off the day's podium, and ceded the leader's jersey, and I can say this now that Sean Kelly's not here. Back in 2013, I remember the day that you, Nico, went into the leader's jersey, and Sean Kelly had something in his eye that day. It was magnificent. Unfortunately, right here on the wall, you had to give it away.
I was just thinking about earlier on your comments about Grenadier, and on a good day this was a really good finish for Yates, and I think he showed you today when he attacks he has that explosivity. He just hasn't been capable of really keeping up on their longer climbs, so I wouldn't completely rule him out for a good performance today.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. Talking about the day, where could it have been different for you, or was it just a question of giving it your all on the day? I'm sure naturally, but how could it have been ridden differently?
I mean, today the only chance a breakaway would have made, like if it was going to be a breakaway day, there would have been at least 20 riders in the front and most teams represented. When there's a small breakaway like this on a mountaintop finish, usually the peloton has something in the back of his mind, and you could see already all the teams were straight away in control. The gap was never given more than 2.5 minutes, so it was clear from very early in the race that today was going to be someone winning from the peloton, which it has been over the last 3 times I went up it.
Well, there you are. So it's all about positioning and strategy on your approach. The pace today has been relentless. We were 48 kilometres an hour, and this is rolling terrain down. There's no flat here, so that is breathless.
Yeah, it's very fast one yet again, and unfortunately we didn't get to see the break form yet again without the coverage from kilometre 0 for most of the stages here at La Vuelta. Yeah, the final climb, I don't see it suiting Michael Matthews personally. I mean, he's pulled out some great climbs in the past, but up against Roglic, I can't see him beating him, to be perfectly honest.
I guess we'll find out, but they clearly got the confidence to at least give it a go, and we love them for that. So who is it going to be today? That's the big question. to be honest, it's a bit of a conundrum, especially the closer we get, and the more questions we asked of the riders by factoring in things like the pace. One team that's looking ever more threatening, though, is Movistar and Miguel Angel Lopez and Enric Mas. How on earth, Dan, are they going to pick who's the rider to be supported at the moment? It's a double-pronged attack, and you kind of feel that one of them is going to be very disappointed by being asked to serve the other.
Well, I think they need to try and keep both of them up there as long as they possibly can, because you just never know when they might be able to get themselves into a tactical situation where having two people quite close to the lead of the race is going to be beneficial to them and potentially get them into the lead of the race. So I don't think that they'll be, they'll try not to work against each other, but I don't think either of them will work necessarily for each other. The problem they've got, of course, is they've only got 4 other riders in the race now. They're down to 6, so that just leaves 4 riders to do all the work for Enric Mas and Miguel Angel Lopez, and that is going to be quite trying for them. Carlos Verona is in fantastic form, so he'll be a massive help for them, climbing the best I've seen him for quite some time in this race. But being down to 6 from 8, it is going to make quite a big difference for what's going to be about 2 weeks of the race in total.
I think you also have to remember that Movistar are well used to riding with 2 GC riders. For many years they had the duo with Quintana and Valverde, so it's something that they're used to, and it's almost a tradition for them over the last couple of years, well, decade almost.
Yeah, with Valverde gone, I kind of felt that he was almost the kingmaker, wasn't he, between Lopez and Mas, and I just wonder whether that will have spurred on one or the other to have an enhanced view of their own potential for the race, rather than Valverde actually deciding it. I know that we've got Garcia, of course, in control apparently of that team, but Valverde's constant extension of his contracts as well was something to behold, and it's something we've got used to, the longevity of riders. And indeed, you yourself, Nico, 37 years of age now. I kind of always have to remind myself, because I always think of you very much as the younger Roche. And I have to remind myself that this is that golden autumn of your career. It's been a long one.
It's been a long one, and you know what? Today, when I saw the memories come up of the date, I actually won the first of my stages in the Vuelta on the 25th of August in 2013, and it was like, wow, is it that long ago? It felt, still feels like it was just 3 or 4 years ago, but no, it's almost 8 years now. It's time has flown past.
It certainly has. Still a pro, of course, for those of you at home with Team DSM. Nicholas Roche, great to have him on board. So we're just going to join our wider Eurosport family. Welcome back, everybody. The gap has extended just a little bit. There's been a few riders taking on some feed. We are on a very rare piece of flat road, as you can see. We're heading towards the mountains, and I guess we're kind of skirting with them, aren't we? We'll ultimately be playing with them in a forthright manner day after tomorrow. In fact, day after that, I should say. The weekend, Saturday, Sunday, is where the high mountains start to rear their heads, ugly heads for some, an absolute joy for others. If you suffered so far because of the heat and perhaps the unpredictable nature of the terrain, then it does become, I guess, at least geographically more predictable. But how will the performances range as we head, indeed, inexorably to our finale, that time trial in Santiago de Compostela? Goodness only knows. It's not been a traditional design at all for the Vuelta this year. Topping and tailing it with a time trial as well, Dan, it kind of already seemed to be in the favour of Primož Roglič, and the way he's ridden every single day, even rolling combative stages, he's keen to do something. And how does anyone find time on Roglič if they need it before that final time trial?
Well, that really is a conundrum, isn't it? You talked about the conundrum of picking a stage winner today. I don't think that is such a big one for me. I just cannot see anyone beating Roglič if he's not too badly banged up from yesterday's crash. It's just perfect for him, this final 2 kilometre climb towards the line, because the steep ramps, he loves them. He's got the punch, he's got the acceleration. We saw it multiple times in this race already. We've seen it at La Flèche Wallonne at the start of the year, where he went early. He did get caught just before the line by Alaphilippe, but nevertheless, there's nobody else really in this race who I would see as getting close to Roglič on this climb to the finish. So in theory, he will be further ahead of his closest rivals in my head by the end of the day, and it does start to make you wonder where they're going to find time back. Do you have to wait for him to crash again, dare I say it, or do you have to wait for him to have a bad day? Might well be the case, but they do have to try and take time before that final time trial, because you're right, the time trials really do suit Primož Roglič, and nobody's really, you would imagine, going to take any time back from him on the final day of this race.
One hope, I think, for Movistar in particular, is that Enric Mas seems to be sustaining the race very well. He can have his dips, but he's been reasonably consistent, and he looks happy as well. And Mas is one of those open books that sort of reflects how he's feeling very obviously, even within the stage. And he doesn't look overly troubled, Mas. And I think for those of you who are wondering where the attacks may come, what quarter, well, Movistar, despite the fact that they have lost 2 riders, I remind you, with Valverde, very much a team captain on the road as well as off it, hobbled in that regard, but still got some very, very strong riders. It's not over. Let's hear from Romain Bardet, shall we? He of Team DSM, who took a tumble himself, went through the mill. Well, here with Romain Bardet, tell us about the exhibition from your teammate Michael Storer. Yeah, it's great. He has great sensations, and once he won once, he had nothing to lose, so he just tries, it works, it's amazing. And there are 3 guys in our team yesterday that worked for his victory, and we supported him from the start to be at the front, so it's been a great Vuelta. Well, on a personal level, today's stage can suit you very well. It'll be up and down with a steep climb at the end. Yeah, it's a very interesting stage. On paper, at least, today, except for Friday, which is a sprint stage, there are 4 mountain stages to come, and if you don't have the opportunities today, then it'll be tomorrow. We'll see. Tell us about what happened between the GC guys yesterday. You're a good descender. We've noticed on the Tour of Burgos, of course. Do you understand why Roglič took those risks on the descent? He said it was a tricky descent, not too steep, but the road was very slippery. There was a lot of dust, so you could easily go down. And that's a very. It was a nice show to watch, but not unfortunately for him. Sometimes you almost daren't use your brakes, because if you do, then it stops going very well indeed. So. Yeah, it can be difficult. Roglič claimed his motto, no risk, no glory. Yeah, he surprised everyone yesterday. We knew that he was the strongest in the race, but he was losing the jersey and he attacked anyway. He's clever. He goes away from the cliches, the obvious, to show that he's the best rider of this Vuelta, and he's right. There we are. The best rider on the Vuelta is Primož Roglič. How can they possibly unpick the safe and steal the glory within? Is anybody's guess. Nico, how do you stop someone like Primož Roglič? If he wins today, it's going to be an even more difficult task to figure out.
I mean, I don't think there will be big gaps today, but I think symbolically from him winning today is what he wanted to do yesterday, prove a point. So
Agreed, yeah.
There isn't as many. I mean, he is the ultimate champion at the moment. There is not the contention or not up to the level of beating him, but it's still a long way to go, and we've seen Roglič have bad days, and the mountains haven't really started, although it's been already very difficult. First 10-11 days, the hardest is to come, so you only get to win the Vuelta when you get to Madrid safely, so there's a long way to go. Some riders might roll into form, although the gaps have already started to grow, but it's still relatively small.
Well, let's see how he goes today. Incidentally, today's climb has only been used 3 times on La Vuelta, and it already sort of has classic status, and I think possibly, Dan, because we did it 3 times in very quick succession. 2010 with Igor Anton when he won, 2011 when Perito, Joaquim Rodriguez, took the victory, and then of course the day of Dani Moreno with Valverde in his wake in 2013, and it kind of felt, Simon Carr is off the bike, unfortunately. That's a shame. It kind of felt, Dan, that as we had that race and we were reminded of it on 3 occasions, it's the afterglow of it has stayed in our minds, and despite the fact it's been a long old break since we've been there.
Yeah, I'm not surprised it's become a popular climb to use at the Vuelta. I'm a big fan of shorter, steeper climbs. I think I've said it many times before. I love the Muri stage of the Tirreno Adriatico, for example. I just feel like in the modern day of cycling, where things can be so planned on the longer climbs and the time trials, sustained power, they know they can't go above that too often because they'll pay for it, and in the end not go at the same power that they could do if it was steady. Whereas on the shorter climbs, you can go into the red knowing that you're able to recover down the other side. Of course, there isn't the other side of it on today's climb. It finishes at the top of it, but it's just more explosive. You're going into your VO2 max even above that. You're going into the red, and you can afford to because it's quite short. So they're just slightly less predictable in my mind.
I think that's what everyone loves about Primož Roglič as well, is the way that Ineos and Sky in its previous incarnation rode to power, and the meters were there. There was even a movement, wasn't there, to get the power meters banned. They've stayed. I think safety was held up as the reason why, which allowed an excuse for a lot of power meters still to be sold. I think that has to be factored into.
I think that was radios, wasn't it? Not power meters.
Oh, was it? I
thought they don't really keep you safe.
I thought as well. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, beg your pardon. But there was a movement against power meters as well, and having
there wasn't really a movement. It was talked about, but more from journalists than the riders themselves.
It was my fault.
No, I mean power meters are now, was it over almost 20 years in the peloton, so they're well established, and they're a great tool to work with. For time trialing and for the high mountains, obviously they bring a lot of help. It's a device that is very important, that years ago you would have to kind of know yourself a little bit better, where now you know what numbers to hit, so you just know yourself in a different way. But there were years where there were teams that had power meters and teams that didn't have power meters, and there was a big disparity, where today every team has a power meter. So I think, take them off or on, I don't think it would change the essence of racing today.
How much do the riders, how many riders would you say in the peloton, what percentage have a map, a GPX file on their head unit so that they can see what's coming up?
Well, this is one of the debates we had the other day about you saying when you had initially a few years ago the change of directions on your map. Now you have the whole profile with the GPX files. I would say anything, I'd guess over half the bunch now would have the maps on and the profile on their devices.
And is that dangerous in itself? If you've got a lot of riders looking for corners coming up and not looking at the corner itself, but where it's coming up on the map on their device?
Yeah, it is one of those debates, isn't it? Like you do have to get your eye off the road and look down to see where you're going. But we've heard also, some riders who say it saves them from, especially in bad conditions where the visibility isn't great and you're flying down the hill, and next thing is you kind of want to know if there's a hairpin coming up or a switchback and some curves, and at least you have a bit of an idea. So some riders have said that it helped them, but we've also seen crash because the guys are looking down and not only at the power meter to see what power they're producing, but to see where they're going.
There was an imbalance, wasn't there? I remember a certain Daniel Lloyd. He came out of Garmin Cervelo. I think he went Sigma Sport down in 2012. And we were working together in 2012, and he was begging Garmin to have the latest update. And I think ahead of many pros. I think you actually got one as well, didn't you?
I did get one, yeah, but I had been using the map on my Garmin from, must have been 2010, maybe 2011. But there weren't really any GPX files provided by race organisers at the time, but I was sad enough to basically make my own using the road map, and then I think I used something called Bike Route Toaster to create the routes online, then send it to my Garmin, and it did give me the profile, so I could see when climbs were coming up, and it gave me the map so I could see when major turns were coming up. So I wouldn't use it on a descent to see what the corners were like, but what I would use it for is something like the Tour of Britain or Tour of Denmark, where you don't know the roads, you've just got a kilometre to go in your head and on the stem that says left turn here, could be dangerous because of crosswinds. Whereas on my head unit, because I could see exactly where the turn was, it meant I only had to make one effort to get to the front of the bunch rather than continually moving around, not knowing exactly where that point was going to be. But yeah, I said this to Nico outside of our broadcast yesterday, that at the time I was thinking, well, it's okay because it's just me doing this. If half the bunch or all the bunch is looking down at their head unit before a corner, it's not going to be particularly safe.
from Ed McMass about his day. This is the man that I think is going to pose the major challenge to Primož Roglič. Of course, there's an awful long way to go in this race. Let's hear from him.
Yesterday, it was a hard day at the beginning, and in the finish with Primož Roglič, you didn't expect such move from the red jersey.
No, we didn't expect that offence from Primož, but luckily we arrived at the same time, and I'm happy to be in the game.
What do you expect with today's stage? It's a very short stage with up and down during all the day.
It'll be a little like yesterday. I'm going to take a while, or it will take a while for the breakaway to get away, because everyone is going to want to win the stage, and maybe at the back there'll be some teams that want to control to get a united finish, but stage victory is going to be a tough one. We'll see.
You have to wait for the end, or maybe try from far from the finish. What is the best thing to do today? Try something far from the finish line, or just wait for the end?
No, I think it's important not to lose time today. We know that Primož is a very explosive rider, and we need to try to get there with him until the absolute finish line. That's going to be a difficult one, Dan, to hold on to the coattails of Primož Roglič if he's mooded to do what he did yesterday. Nobody could stay with him when he went.
No, short climbs day, steeper though, suits him down to the ground. So, like Nico said, the gaps are not going to be huge at the end of today's stage, but they could be of some significance by the time we get to the finish line, and I think the significance will be in the favour of Primož Roglič, if I had to hazard a guess. I'd be interested to see how Ineos Grenadiers play. You mentioned them earlier. Tom Pidcock would be well suited to this climb if he's on top form, I would say, but obviously they want to protect the GC ambitions still of Egan Bernal and Adam Yates, and that means getting them into position at the foot of this climb, and it might be that Tom here is one of the riders that's required to do that, so he might not get the freedom to go for his own result. Bike Exchange obviously working for Michael Matthews, and they're really the only other stage hunting team, I would say, that have been riding on the front with Jumbo-Visma. Jumbo obviously want the stage, otherwise they wouldn't. There's no need to ride on the front as they have been doing if it's not with the intent of winning the stage, because there's nobody of any threat on GC up here in the breakaway. But the only other team working, Intermarché Wanty Gobert, I think just wanting to show themselves on the front because they are now leading this race with Odd Christian Eiking.
It was an experience that Ryan May said they absolutely loved. He was cock-a-hoop, wasn't he, at the end of the first day? I mean, I know he took a couple of tumbles in red, but just the very fact that the team could actually show themselves as a unit up front, it was a pleasure for them.
Yeah, it always is. Defending a race lead in any race is always a privilege, but more so than ever really when you get to any of the Grand Tours, to lead them is an amazing thing for any rider, but also for the team, those surrounding that person. They know they're not going to keep it, or it's very unlikely that they will, to the end, and maybe not even into the final week of this race, but the next few days will be something they'll remember forever, I think.
I'm just wondering whether there's an awful lot of riders here full of regret that they didn't make the breakaway. I don't think a second one like yesterday was going to be allowed to happen, but 5 as a fighting force, Nico, it's not a bad number to be. I mean, you can always argue as to what's the perfect number, but just not being allowed their head today, there's too much at stake, it seems, behind in the peloton.
Yeah, I think it's a great initiative from Bike Exchange to go for it. There's Michael's not going to win a massive bunch sprint, and today is okay. Roglič is the favourite, but Michael has done so well in races such as Amstel Gold Race, or even on top of Mur de Huy. So you can never rule Michael out. Being teammates with him, one of my friends and training partners, and when he's on a good day, he can do anything as well. So I give them thumbs up, and great from Michael from taking responsibilities to give it a shot today.
One thing that struck me about Michael Matthews, over the years, but particularly at the moment, is he just seems to have absolutely no stress. I just find that absolutely remarkable, Nico. It seems to bounce off him, worry.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just hasn't been able to get that win now, but he's also competing against the best of the best, and this younger generation who are coming there and a bit more explosive than him. But like I said, he has the experience, he has the team, and I'm always backing him up. I'm a little bit biased. He's one of my good friends in the peloton, and you know, so I say myself and Mike go a long way. So obviously I got to give him kudos, but no, I think he'd give it. It might be a little bit too hard for him, but he'll give it his best, and he'll be up there.
He was unlucky, really, in his career to come up against Peter Sagan in many ways, wasn't he?
Exactly,
you know,
and then he got records of second places, but then Peter Sagan tames down a little bit, and now we got the Van der Poels, the Peacock, and the Van Aert coming over.
Yeah, it kind of feels as well when Michael Matthews was starting to hit. He had Philippe Gilbert to deal with as well, didn't he? We're going to dial the clock back and have a look at another finish from Valdepeñas. This is back in 2011. It was Perito Rodriguez back then for Team Katusha that was indeed to take the day.
David Moncoutier, now very own.
Yeah, how nice is that? Now, of course, commentating with us. I did like the old Katusha outfit, I must admit. It's amazing when you look back at this, and it looks so familiar. Perito Rodriguez, who was part of the design of the course as well, just came home and said thank you very much. Often a reference point. Wout Poels for Vacances Soleil, runners-up. Dani Moreno it was in third place, ahead of Bauke Mollema and Michele Scarponi, much lamented. Zubeldia, Jakob Fuglsang, Nicholas Roach finishing in 8th place on that day, ahead of Van den Broek and of course Kasayakov. Vincenzo Nibali in the frame as well. Lovely seeing those pictures. It's amazing how quickly they look old though, Dan, isn't it?
Yeah, that kit looks quite old to me. I mean, you said it looked familiar. It does look quite old-fashioned, the Katusha kit from 2011. Yeah, they were around for a reasonable amount of time, that team, weren't they? Here's a different kit for you. Spanish Champions kit. Looks quite nice. I think Astana have done a decent job on that one, in my opinion.
Yeah, they used to hide it, didn't they, Astana? It was always very much... you'd have the National Champions jersey as a sort of a flag within the overpowering Kazakhstan blue.
We had that year where Vincenzo Nibali was the Hungarian national champion, didn't we?
Because they put it on upside down or something?
No, it just looked very similar to the Hungarian flag, with the way they'd mixed it in with the turquoise of Astana.
I don't think that's appropriate. If you've got a national flag, then be loud and proud and be confident enough to display it, I think. Anyway, Wout Poels, as you heard, got a very good finish that day. How's he going to go now? Let's find out.
Joined up by Wout Poels of Bahrain Victorious. Well, take us back to 2011 when you came in second after Perito. What happened there?
Yeah, I remember good. It was a really nice final. I remember I got a flat tire in the final last 10k, I think, and Pim Lichtstad, then teammate, brought me back, and yeah, I did a really good finish. So normally I like finishes like this. So yeah, looking forward.
What does that do to a rider when you have good memories on a stage like this?
Of course, I mean, I'm always motivated, but then a climb where you did good, you always get a little bit extra motivation, and the team is going really well, and yeah, I feel pretty good also after the rest day, the day before, so we will see.
Tell me a little bit about your role there, because Jack Hayes is good in GC, you obviously won a stage with Caruso.
Yeah, so normally today I have to help Jack to try to get in good position, because it's a really tricky final to lose time, and but you also can gain time, and then the rest of the week normally I'm going to get my opportunities in some other days, so we have to see a little bit how everything goes.
Have you looked already a little bit in the road book then, maybe for week 3 with uphill finishes?
Yeah, but also this last weekend is also really hard, and yeah, sometimes you have to feel in the race when you can go in the break or not. So now the team is going really well, we're all motivated, and yeah, it's nice to ride here.
So you're enjoying yourselves in this Vuelta?
Yeah, I enjoy. It's always hard work, of course, but it's a really, I always like the Vuelta. Weather is good, so yeah, all good.
Good man. Thanks, John.
I must admit, I wasn't. Thanks to Wout Poels. Nice to hear him feeling so. Remaining joyous. He's a very upbeat character, Wout Poels. But yeah, Bahrain Victorious, of course, amending their kit to come here, so it doesn't challenge visually the red jersey of the overall leader. And I must admit, I was a bit hesitant as to its design at the beginning. I've come to like it.
Well, it makes me feel like I need glasses, where it's slightly out of focus.
It's that repeated image, isn't it? That sort of double image. You're absolutely right. That's what made me uncomfortable. I'm kind of getting there. I don't know whether I'm yet down with the kids, but still some work to do on that one. 43 kilometres to go. So, Dan, we're only 12 Ks away from the sprint, which we think will announce a bit of a pace change today. We come through the sprint, go into a little dip, but it leads inexorably to a downhill, which will be our penultimate climb, when you're going to have to master that if you're going to master the rest of the day.
Yeah, I don't know how much of a change in pace we'll have for the sprint itself, only because of the fact really it comes before that climb or leads into it. Of course, with Jasper Philipsen of Alpecin Phoenix withdrawing from the race with a fever, it means that Fabio Jakobsen's got a far more comfortable lead in the green jersey competition than he had after yesterday's stage. So I'm sure he'll try and pick up some points behind these riders if it's freely available. I know Michael Matthews has been going after some of the points as well, but I can't imagine that he will today, because he'll want to be focusing on that final climb and not using up energy before. So he might be able to get some fairly easy points, Jakobsen. But certainly on the second category climb that we've got to come, there's going to be a huge fight up there. I'm not talking about attacking from the main bunch, but just making sure that over the top you've got your rider and your leader up towards the front, because the descent, from what we're hearing, it sounds like it's very, very difficult to make up any places, and of course that goes straight into the final climb. So positioning is going to start very early on today's stage.
Agreed. I think we've dare I suggest we might have got a pace change, not just because of the geography now. Let's see what happens to the gap. It's 1:36. It was about 1:47 not very long ago, so I think they'll start wrestling for it through the sprint. I'm not necessarily, I think it's only the top 5, isn't it, on the intermediate that score points anyway, so there'll be none spare for the likes of Matthews or anybody else.
Top 5, is it?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Absolutely no part of this countryside, it seems, is untouched by human hand, but they've done a great job of planting olives here. Spectacularly successful. Very good stuff it is too, apparently. So, how's it going to pan out today? Frankly, we don't know, and that's what's so marvellous. It is coming down that gap, however, and it suggests a charge probably through the sprint. I think the breakaway will probably manage to hold on for it. It's 31k, so it's in 10 kilometres time. So as it stands at the moment, we're just coming on a little descent, and we will pick up and start heading to Caceres. By the time we get to that, it's not exactly a big climb. It's sort of rolling terrain, a little bit like we saw earlier on today. Nothing too challenging before that descent that takes us to the foot of the Category 2 test. And I think that descent, if there's not going to be any inroads or chops and changes on it, then it could well be that we have a pecking order for the climb itself. The Category 2 test, we haven't really dwelled too much on it, Dan, but it's a precursor to the rest of the day, and it's gaining in importance in our minds.
Yeah, it will do, because it's a reasonable length, isn't it? It's not steep, nothing like the final climb that they deal with. I think it's a 5% average gradient, roughly, that they'll be dealing with up there, but it is a lot longer. So it will give teams the opportunity to push the pace, maybe to just whittle down the group enough so it's not quite so difficult to position yourself over the top of that climb as it would be if they took it at a very steady pace. The other thing I have to consider is whether or not this break is still up the road. It's likely to be once they hit that second category climb. How much time will they have? That's the big question. And how much have they got in reserve amongst these 5 riders? It's quite often a tactic these days to take it a bit easier and then really press on in the closing stages and try and catch the bunch out. But from what we've been seeing, it doesn't look like a bunch that is ready to be caught out today. They look ready for action, ready to take them back.
I think always the difficult thing when you look at a map is that they sort of stretch the map to fit the page, and you don't realise that we've got a bit of ground rush today, haven't we? And we'll be there before you know it. When we get to the top of this second category climb, we will only have 8 kilometres to go until the line.
Yeah, you're right. The 260 kilometre stage is the same width on a profile as 130k, so everything looks a bit steeper on the longer days, doesn't it?
It does. So it's a big compression here today. Of that geography. At the moment, this is that climb I was telling you about, which will take us up to the rolling plateau which will feature our sprint, and I think it's going to get lively. Gaps holding, 1:39, so it looks like the sprint will be taken by our breakaway. the man who's been smiling away, well, he certainly was yesterday. I imagine he's probably, because he's so courteous, he's probably masking that smile now, is Fabio Jakobsen, because a couple of the rivals, 4 sprint points, have now unfortunately had to step off the bike. So he's looking very secure in that jersey. He's got to get through it all, of course, but that's quite a diminution of his rivals for the sprint. It's probably given a real fillip and a cheer up to Arnaud Démare, to be honest, but let's wait and see. Today's a different story. 40.6 kilometres to go. We're just climbing at the moment up to Caceres. Those of you who've been away on a commercial break, don't forget you can watch uninterrupted coverage if you subscribe to the Eurosport app, General Sports app, of course, with all different kinds of sports, including cycling and a lot of cycling major races. But if cycling is your thing and you're an undiluted enthusiast, or indeed somebody who wants to move towards that, then the GCN app is where you need to get to, because you have more cycling there than just about anywhere else on the planet. I don't know anywhere else that has more. And of course a whole raft of features and all kinds of other things for you to enjoy. Go to the GCN app, have a wander around, see whether you like the look of it. Some things you'll be able to access, other things not. But if you do find a home there, then of course you can subscribe, and indeed you can enjoy a whole raft of racing, more racing than you can shake a stick at, Dan.
Yeah, we've got a lot coming up for you. It's a very, very busy time of the year for road cycling, isn't it? Last week was incredibly busy. This week the CIMAC Ladies Tour, which is part of the World Tour, is on. We've had 2 stages already. You can catch up with them on demand if you so wish, but 4 stages still to go. The Deutschland Tour, that starts tomorrow, I think it is. It runs for 4 days. Mark Cavendish is competing there amongst many other stars as well. On Saturday we've got the Brussels Cycling Classic, 1-day race in Belgium, of course, and then on Sunday it is the Bretagne Classic, formerly Grand Prix Plouay, which is where Nico is competing next, so you can watch that as well. Basically any of you watching this race will be able to watch those with the territory restrictions we do and don't have. I'm just about to leave the commentary box to make way for Sean Kelly, but I'm going to leave with a question for Nico. You talked earlier about how things have changed, particularly since COVID, with every race seemingly raced as though it's the last one for a lot of teams and riders. And it's something that I think we've all noticed, fans of the sport, that the rule book seems to have been ripped up sometimes by Remco Evenepoel, by Mathieu van der Poel, by Wout van Aert and Tom Pidcock, plenty of other riders. Particularly in the classics I'm thinking of, where Van der Poel said he was going to work for Jasper Philipsen at Kuurne Brussels Kuurne and then went on the attack with 80k's to go. The thing is that they can quite often pull it off, so I was just wondering how the teams are dealing with this new way of riding, where it feels like everything that you knew for the last 10, 20, 30 years has gone out the window, because people are going where you think it's a stupid place to go, but still managing to win.
Well, I just think now you just need to be aware, and there's no more moment in the race where you can just lose focus. We've seen again today that the break is gone, and straight away teams are going for it. And to go back to racing even a couple of weeks ago in Tour of Poland, once the break was I think under a minute, and then suddenly there was 15 riders who decided to just go for it and caught the break, went off again, and there was a second battle, 40-50k to go. I got all together again, I got settled down and I went into a bunch sprint. But it's just now anything can happen at any moment. There are riders that not everyone can win a marathon finish, not everyone can win a bunch sprint, and some riders just need to try and work something out. And I think before you had a bit of a complex of saying, oh, if I go here, I'll get the peloton chasing me, I'll get the older guys giving out to me, and that's a little bit how it was done, You get the game with intimidation, and some of the teams just close down on you and call you every bird name you can think of, where today it's a normality. And we've seen again even when the breakaway was gone, Burgos, who have missed the breakaway the second day in a row, they started pulling straight away to try and have an idea if they could get across or not, or completely close the gap and restart and reset the racing. So, there's so many. It's so important for a breakaway day that riders are in the breakaway, and it seems to be more and more a clear line between a breakaway day and a GC day, where when it's a breakaway day, it's just like, all right, we just need to be here because it's one of the only few opportunities that we might get to get a result today with a certain type of riders.
Let's see how it pans out. I guess that's what makes it so fascinating, is that lack of certainty, Nico.
Yes, totally. I mean, earlier on, you're also saying that a lot of guys would have been regretting not being in the breakaway yesterday. But if it took 100 kilometers or so to get into breakaway, I think they must have probably tried as well 10 times. And you often see that it's the same 40, 50 riders that just go for it. And, you know, there's a moment where it's just about trying. And, you know, the breakaway could also be decided with just a little bit of road furniture. You coming to a roundabout, someone lets the wheel go, and it's gone. It's as simple as that, or as complicated as that to be in it, depending on what side of the split you are in. So, you know, it's not always decided on a key moment. It could be most of the time when the road narrows. It's easier for a team to kind of get in the front and let a wheel go, or slow the pace down for some teammates to get up the road or whatever. But we're going to see more and more of those breakaways, and the ones that arrive are the group of 20, 22 riders where most of the teams are represented.
Let us see. If you're looking for some surprises today, I think every single day has produced so many of them for the reasons that Nico Rush has indeed outlined to us. It's a difficult one to predict. I guess the constant, really, though, Sean, is that Primož Roglič will go well. Doesn't matter what the terrain, does it, really?
Well, that is the problem. We say a rider like Roglič, he can just be performant over any sort of terrain. And yeah, as you were talking there with Dan, the surprise one is that Jumbo-Visma are taking it up. I was expecting them to just sit back and allow the team of race leader to control, maybe bike exchange for Michael Matthews. You can understand why they are doing it, but yeah, it's going to be a very interesting final here, and I think one man will be happy there is Angel Mandrasso that he's not in the breakaway, because if he admitted the breakaway, it looks like that it would have been a day where you give that huge effort, empty the tank totally, and not get anything out at the end of the day, not really having a chance to go for stage victory, where you can save your energy, save your power for another day, and that's very important at this point in the race now. The fatigue is building up. You get into a breakaway, you're hoping that is going to be the breakaway of the day, and when you have to fight so much, as Nico was talking about, you make the breakaway and then you get that minute and a half, 2 minutes, and then suddenly there's 3 teams start riding, and you say, oh my God, sorry, I won't say that word, but you're so disappointed after making it into the breakaway, and then there's teams that have the tactic that they want to control on that day, and you've done all the hard work, you've made the breakaway, but it's not going to be the day where you're going to be allowed and have the opportunity to go and fight for a stage win.
I'm actually wondering whether Burgos, who wrestled to get into the break and were bullied out of it, are told to just toe the line and get back in by Jumbo-Visma, who are going to say we're going to kill this break anyway. I'm just wondering whether Burgos have some options today. Let's oh, Sean, you're a heartbreaker. Come on. Sanchez, maybe.
No, not in this final. This is going to be.
I'm trying to do something nice.
It's going to be a big battle, and it's going to be the big riders are going to be up here, and you can pick out. You can pick out a number of riders. You pick out, 6 or 7 riders, you should have the winner, but Burgos would be a long way down the list.
They will. Jonas Aguirre, Mike. Sorry, Nico, you were going to say.
I was going to say, I think Visma were more giving out to him because of the moment where they went more than him attacking and saying, oh, we're going to get it back anyway. It was more because it kind of had finally slowed down, and a lot of the riders had stopped on the side of the road for a little wee break, and it was just the wrong timing to go. It's like, all right, guys, okay, there's not a gentleman agreement, but when the whole peloton stops, it's never well looked at when you just go again.
It did look like a sort of a come on, pack it in, you missed it kind of moment. We've all settled in now.
They were sort of bullying him.
They were. And the man we're talking about, in case you missed it, was Angel Mandrasso, who was desperate after missing the break yesterday. In fact, one of only 4 teams, I think, that missed the break yesterday, with 31 up the road. And of course the team that had been in the break every single day, Burgos BH. So if it's not going to be Roglič, who can stop him? What Poles perhaps? Why not someone like Raf Majka, Roman Bardet?
not sure he's got the legs for it, because I think Nico would have mentioned him already as a potential. But what about Richard Carapaz? And magically he comes up on our screens. He's been quite active. He's been precocious. Is he refinding his legs? We'll wait till the end of the day. It may well just be a parade for Primož Roglič, with, of course, Michael Matthews doing his job. Both of those teams are doing the chasing at the moment. They've lengthened the leash just a little. We're coming to our intermediate sprint. That'll be in about 5 kilometres time. And then, Sean, we take a descent, which brings us to the foot of the Puerto de Locobin, which is our Category 2 test. When we get to the top of that, there's only 8k remaining, much of which is a descent before the pesky wall at the end. So one must feel that this race is about to ignite.
Yes, as you mentioned, Carlton, you know, the climb before the major big fight for the stage honours, Locobin. There'll be a lot of guys in the bin. If that's the way you pronounce that climb, but it's going to be a hectic final. And of course we heard from Nico as well, and we heard from some of the other riders, the run in to the final ramp to the finish, that is, you know, very, very technical, very, very fast, and that is, it's not like a big road where, you know, you can move up at the last moment. You can hold off with 4 or 5 riders from the team, stay in that, you know, 30th positions, and don't get into the fight trying to, you know, in the front of the peloton, but, you know, make that move up and the big effort before that turn onto the climb. But here it's not that big road effects and possibility, so, you know, it's going to be a crazy one here, and there'll be so much, you know, fighting for positions, teams trying to control the front of the bunch. That is going to be majorly important. And then to get onto the climb, it's going to be very important that you're in a good position, and, you know, that is the key, I think, for the success. And, you know, there's a few riders in there that you could pick out. Vlasov, for example, he would be a good choice here for this finish here. But, you know, to stay in a good position, some of those guys are going to have difficulty. They mightn't have that team around them able to, you know, deliver them onto that final ramp to the finish.
So through the sprint, take on a couple of little waivers before a descent down to our penultimate test. 33.5 kilometres to go. We've got a minute and 49. It's kind of holding station at the moment. Nico, sacrificial lambs, when you've got a good prospect of making it as a breakaway because you've got some good engines there, this must be heartbreaking to know that your fate is sealed, really. And you can see the demeanour of the chase at the moment. 68 kilometres an hour. We're on this rolling plateau, but they're not hanging around, are they?
No, well, there's always this thing where you know it's suicide at this point, but you just have to keep on going, and it's always mentally challenging because, as Sean was saying earlier on, it's such a big battle to get into the breakaway. You finally make it, and it's like, oh, 3 teams are chasing, this is not going to be the day. So you straight go from having the satisfaction said, all right, I made it, it could be my day, to, it's not going to be my day. But the thing is, at this stage, you're 1 minute 45 up the road, and there's no other solution than just to keep going, because what do? You just sit up and wait for the race to go back, but you just always have that thing of saying, what if, you know, if just some riders come up, and you have to keep that hope, although you just know that it's most likely doomed.
In a boxing analogy, Chris Eubank was saying many years ago, I won't do his spectacular voice, but he said, it's like going 12 rounds and you know you've lost 11, and how do you get yourself, because even if you are even if you knock the guy to the canvas and he gets up, you're still going to lose because you've lost full 11 rounds. But there is the slim chance you could land a knockout blow with a lucky hit, and so you just keep getting up out of the corner and you just keep fighting. And I think these guys must feel the same, and I guess that's the only hope that you can hold on to, as you say, Nico, is that it may something strange may happen, and it might just come your way. And we've seen it in the past, haven't we?
Yeah, quite. You know, I mean, look at to go back to Tour of Poland, which is the last race I've done, so it's easier for me to talk about it. But on the last day, 5-6 riders up the road. We left them 1 minute 30 the whole day. It was also a short stage, 145 kilometres, and the bunch never cut them. And in the morning, it was written to be a bunch sprint, and and it did happen. So there's always that element of uncertainty, which makes this sport quite special.
It's what we love about it. Expect the unexpected. Right, breakaway here. Well, if you expected a feisty battle for the intermediate sprint, then think again. This is about beer money, I think, apart from anything else. I think that was the sprint line that we've just speared through, with Edward Plancart just heading it. They're like a time trialling unit at the moment, Sean, trying to keep what slender hope they have alive.
Yes, and it was Plancart who went through there, and the intermediate sprint, €550 into the pot there of Albacin, and Magnus Cort second position, €180 and 95 for second. You've talked about that a lot of times, Carlton. A number of years ago, I think it was quite a lot less, and
it was.
You know, they deserve that. They deserve much more, because being out here on the breakaway, you'd expect the intermediate sprints to be upped, and surprising the organisers not doing more in that line, because it would make it more compared to being the breakaway, more action maybe, but they certainly don't need the action here to get in the breakaway. It's action every day.
Certainly is. It was quite a few years ago now, wasn't it? I think it was after the financial crisis of 2008. Sean and I were looking at the prize money for an intermediate sprint. Third place was €10.
I think it was 15.
But remember, there's 50% tax, and you divide it with your teammates and staff, so it's not much left for it.
A chupa-chup, possibly. That's all you're going to get out of it.
Well, that's an interesting one, as Nico say, because you have to split it between the personnel. They take a percentage, then it's divided between all the riders, and of course you have tax on top of that. So at the end, if it was €10 or €15, there's not going to be a lot left if you get a third place on an intermediate sprint.
But I think more than a financial bonus to be in the breakaway, it should be something due to bigger bonus seconds, for example, or even greater points for the green jersey. But I think that there is a balance to make it a little bit more interesting to be in the breakaway than it is at the moment.
So true. 30 kilometres to go, so our peloton will come through, and it will be pointless for them in the regards of the intermediate sprint. However, we're approaching our penultimate climb, which is going to define the day. And so they will sail through, and indeed we start. In a short while anyway, we'll be on our climb. We've got to descend to get to it first, so a little bit of work to be done to actually get through town. Then we'll take a descent, and it will be the Puerto de la Cubin. I think we actually have a couple of climbs post-sprint. This indeed is one of those, so the peloton have actually been through the climb. And indeed we'll come through the Paso Estrecho, which is, in fact, our breakaway will have already been through that. So they'll be on the descent before you know it. This is absolutely beautiful. What happened to this town? Is it somewhere you know, Nico? I'm not expecting you to know. I just wondered if you happen to.
No, not this one. It definitely looks fabulous, but
it wasn't a quiz.
No. I know Jaén though. I've been there quite sometimes. Also, there's another year we had a finish in Jaén, but just a different road than those 3 editions we've gone up the Valdepeñas.
It is beautiful, and I must say the roads in Spain are extraordinarily different to how they were quite some years ago now. This is European development money, and it has made a fantastic job of providing us with our arena, and so we're pleased about that. It's a lot of country roads in exceptionally good condition. Here's your break as it went through. 2017-15, I think there was 13 and 10 points up for grabs beyond that. And Magnus Cort Nielsen, guess what, has moved into second place in the green jersey competition. I wonder if he knew that, and whether he wouldn't have actually gone for the extra 3. But it looks like Fabio Jakobsen's to lose, Sean.
Yes, well, he has a real strong lead there, but again, there's a lot of difficult terrain for him to get over. I did mention the other day, Roglic, in the rest of this race, if it keeps on turning out where it's going to be the situation today that it's going to be a fight between the GC men, he could move up a lot in the green jersey classification. So he's a long ways off, but when you look at the days that to come, and if the race goes in that way, that it's going to be between the favourites, the overall contenders fighting out for stage wins, well then he could move quite a lot up in that green jersey classification.
Indeed. In fact, I remember, was it 2017? We went into Madrid, and Chris Froome threw the bike at the line, I think, to pinch some points and win the points jersey competition from Matteo Trentin by 2 points. I've just reminded myself it was. And so it proves, Sean, that the GC men can actually hoover everything up here. You're absolutely right. And I remember Matteo Trentin giving out about that. He wasn't happy at all. This looks like a ventilation shaft for a railway. I might be wrong, but being a boy from the Pennines, we see this sort of thing on the high ground between Sheffield and Manchester. We're going to be hearing from Baggioli in a short while, which will be nice. He is an outsider for today. And there are some feisty riders here, Sean, that could have their fun. You never know what might happen. Minute 26 is your gap.
Yes, it's very possible that we might see somebody not really up in the GC standings at all and just coming here and producing the performance to win the stage. But Jumbo-Visma, you can see here Van Hooydonk, he's doing an enormous amount of work on the front, keeping the pace very high. Bike Exchange as well, a number of riders there, and you can see the way the peloton is here, just lined out there, the final maybe 30 riders, possibly 40 riders, just one line and just fighting here to stay in position. This speed is, really leg burning here for a lot of the riders that are, not feeling comfortable at this point in the race. Tiredness is a problem. Recovery, they're not getting the recovery that you need to be to race at this level, and it's one of those days where you can't make the group, the bus as they call it in cycling terms, because everybody wants to cling on here, still with 26 kilometres out. And you mentioned earlier in the day there was a lot of riders struggling in the very earlier lumpy stuff of the day.
Yeah, and the heat. And it's been a hot race. Not as hot as it could have been. It could have been dangerously so, around 35. 31 today. We're under 29-ish at the top of the climb. Let's hear from Andrea Baggioli, shall we?
With Andrea Baggioli at the start of this new stage, Andrea. Yesterday was a good opportunity. You had two cars with you and Mauri at the front. What about today?
Well, today it's going to be a nice stage. The arrival are going to suit my characteristics more than yesterday. It's a short climb, about a kilometre long, with very demanding gradients. The stage is short, so I'm going to go fast. It'll be fast all day long, I think. I just need to see if I've recovered well from yesterday, but I think I can do something. I'll certainly try.
The finish today, it's a very, very hard finish for this stage.
Sorry?
What do you know about the finish of this stage with the last climb, which is very hard?
Well, I've seen the video when Perito Joaquin Rodriguez won it a few years ago, and it's very tough. The wall, 20 or 25%, he says, so of steep gradients at the centre of the city, and it'll be important to be in the front position up the road. It's very narrow though, so it's crucial to stay up towards the pointy end. Nico, that's exactly what you said. Positioning absolutely crucial. Very narrow streets. You can almost reach in through a window and grab somebody's lunch out there. It is going to be compressed, so the positioning off the descent of the climb, the Puerta de la Cubin, is going to be crucial because it bounces straight in to our finale.
Yes, the positioning is going to start actually quite early. We've seen now already the Ineos Grenadier teams who have just got back into position. They've been quite discreet until now on the stage, and they're in the front now. The climb is getting closer. Movistar are there as well. A lot of the GC teams have got back into this position, and now the kind of drag racing is going to start. It's up a climb, so obviously having a strong team around you for that last kilometre before the crest is going to be crucial to be in that descent top 15, I guess.
This is that
that climb that will lead us to that penultimate test. It's measured actually from the foot of the descent, which will take on next. The gap has come down. The breakaway has lost about 25 seconds in very short order, and that's an average pace today, Sean, on a day with over 2,600 metres of altitude gain with just shy of 43 kilometres per hour. They've not been hanging around.
No, they haven't been hanging around, and the breakaway is riding excellently there. The five, they're really putting up a big battle here because the pace has been on for many kilometres now, and they're still holding on to that advantage of 1:20.
Well, they say you need a minute per 10 kilometres if you're going to have success, but it's strong. So, Roglic. We have one Roglic, we have a Tratnik, we have a Kron and a Poles. To be honest, I think it's going to be Manon Lloyd here. Primož Roglic, it's certainly looking a little bit like that, and the gap's going the way of the chase for the time being. Let's see if Matthews indeed pulls it out of the back. Out the bag, he is Nico Roche's choice for today, mainly because he's his mate, but that's okay.
But interesting to see my other teammates on the left side of the road there, of the screen, sorry. So it looks like Romain might have an idea for the stage today, because it's usually when you go for the breakaways, when it's not a breakaway day, that you kind of back off and not take any risk and save energy for the breakaway tomorrow. So if Team DSM are up there in the front now protecting Romain, he might have an idea in the back of his mind for today.
Well, it'd be fantastic if he does. I'd love to see him having a dig. He's certainly one of those riders who will feel there's a possibility. In fact, I thought at the top of the day, I asked the question very early on. I thought it might be an excellent day for him, but I was told no. But here they are. They clearly believe, and that's great. Also, Trentin's just moving up, which I'm liking seeing. And Rough Micah, why not UAE producing a surprise here today, Sean?
Well, it's possible, and Micah, I'm not sure if he'd be explosive enough for this one, but Trentin definitely, he could do something on it, and he's riding real well. We see him very active in the breakaway, and it's a running as well that he will be able to manage well. He's not going to have a problem staying in the front, and if he had one or two teammates around him, that would be a great help. The sort of a classic rider as he is. You can ride there in that top 15-20 places as you approach the final climb, make the move up if you need to do that, very close to the final ramp, and there's riders can do that which relatively easy. Other riders have major difficulty staying in the front, and they have to make the efforts all the time because they find themselves pushed back a bit. When it gets a bit technical, maybe they lose a couple of places, riders come round them, and then they have to move up on the outside. And if you have to do that in that final of this one, well, then the real steep ramp to the finish is going to catch you out. It's going to be in your legs. So if you can ride in the front, not make any effort at all, get maximum drafting, a guy like Trentin could be there.
Here we go then. We've tipped around the hillside here, and there's a real pace about those who are in the break. Now, have they been holding something back? Hard to know, really, on a day like this. Very clever riders, all of them.
No, I don't think they're holding back now. And as you can see now, the pace has gone up again, the battle for position. But to go back to UAE, I think they're riding for De La Cruz more than Trentin. Trentin is now in the front, riding in position. They're protecting De La Cruz for sure.
Let's see. Fantastic. Nico, thank you very much for today. It's been a pleasure to have you along for the ride. I understand you're going to be on the sofa at the end of the day.
Yes, thanks.
Super. We'll hear more from Nico Roche, those of you enjoying GCN coverage. So let's see. I was alluding to the fact that the breakaway may well have actually preserved their resources earlier on in the day to impose right now, but it's been hard to do so, Sean. They've had to make the exchanges rather quickly because there's only 5 of them, so they've made those exchanges right now. Now they've got no choice other than to go all in. The problem is we've got a whole load of other teams behind that are chasing into this gap, and a few little gaps opening up on the descent here. There may be some more. This is important, Sean, to get to the bottom of this, the approach to the penultimate climb, because at the top of it there's only 16 kilometres to go, of which much of it is descending.
Yes, well, you can see there's a lot of teams starting to appear on the front, and the breakaway, unfortunately, the way that they have been, and the peloton, the way they've been riding, they haven't been able to conserve very much for the final, and give it all in that final 20 or 30 kilometres. I think it's only a matter of time now. We can see 57 seconds unfortunately for the breakaway. It just was a case where there was too many teams interested in controlling this one and thinking about the stage fight for the win.
And those teams, Sean, are coming to the fore and helping with the chase down at the moment because they clearly believe that they can get something out of today. Movistar for Enric Mas and Miguel Angel Lopez want to keep a pace about this, and I think it's absolutely right. Nico Roche saying that you've got to look after your team principles apart from anything else. You don't want anything silly happening, especially with the potential for big gaps on the very, very narrow roads. And if you think this is a pinch, Sean, it's nothing compared with the streets that we'll be playing with at the very end today.
No, and it will be much more nervous in the very end, and you can see it's changing now at the front. You can see Movistar coming, you can see Astana is there, Ineos Grenadier starting to appear, and all changing on the front of the peloton. They all want to just have control here, keep their men that they need to have on the front of the peloton, and for that reason the pace will go up, and it will be it's going to be just short-lived now, I think, for the breakaway, because you can see it's just getting more and more nervous, and everybody wants to be in the position on the front of affairs.
Poles and Tratnik being brought up by Bahrain Victorious as well. You can see that Primož Roglic, man, just struggling to keep him to the fore because so many teams are interested. Here we go then. This is the bottom of our penultimate climb, so we've got to get over this. There's a descent within it, by the way. I'm glad they didn't put that up. It looks like we have quite a bit of wind. You can see the smoke here. I'm not really one for flares, but especially around deep breathing cyclists. But nonetheless, it's giving us a good view of the wind direction for the time being. It'll be a headwind at the end, by the way, today. And it's about 14 kilometres per hour, so there is some about crosswind just for the time being, but the road does twist and turn. So Puerto de la Cubin is where we're coming into right now. We're going to be picking up gradients of around 6 and 7%. This is an average of 5% through the full reach of this climb. This peaks out with about 8 kilometres to go. Then we descend and bounce into our finale, which is an absolute nightmare. Let's briefly describe what is the finale as we wait for these guys to deal with this. It's a run of just over around about 900 metres, to be honest, and within that 900 metres you have ramps of 20% and more, and the finale itself, the absolute run for the line as we focus in on Haan van Hoek, is about 11 or 12%. It is very, very difficult. So it's described as a wall. It's a proper kicker at the end of today. If you looked at the profile today and thought, oh, breakaway, well, think again. 47 seconds they hold with 17.5, but so many riders just charging into that gap. It's a tough one. Haan van Hoek has just been disengaged from the four who are up front. Maybe he got a warning yesterday of the dust on the roads, as Nico Roche with some local knowledge here saying olive oil's around here as well, and that farm traffic can put a glissé of olive oil as well if you're not too careful. Looks solid enough for the time being at this sort of pace. They're all taking it sensibly. 47 seconds is the gap. So just about to bounce into the foot of our penultimate climb. Now we have 3 kilometres of climbing, then we have a little bit of a step within the climb, modest downhill before we climb again. It peaks out with 8 kilometres to go, and then we have a technical descent which will lead us to our grand finale, Sean. There's a lot to cram in terms of explanation here. I guess it'll become clear, and it'll also become clear as to whether Primož Roglic is going to win the day.
Yes, and you can see there the peloton where they're going down. It's very technical, and That's the reason it's hyper nervous in the front end of the bunch there, because they want to get onto this climb in a safe position, and you could see the reason. They were really pushing on with a number of teams, and now it's a time here for the last bit of exposure for the breakaway, because 50 seconds I think is going to come up this climb at such a fast rate in the peloton. You can see again Movistar wanting to push on here, Arviti on the front, and it's just a day where the breakaway are going to be really disappointed, because as Nico was saying as well, when you fight so much to get into the breakaway, then you make it and you realise you're getting that 2-minute advantage, and you say, oh, this is the breakaway, this is the one that's going to go all the way, and then suddenly they start riding on the front and they allow you 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, and then they hold you at that, and then you start losing heart again. But here we are now, 47 seconds, and you can see this climb will be rapidly climbed by the main peloton.
It's detonated at our breakaway, and it's because Magnus Cort has pushed on. You'll see his pink jersey just there, it is, loud and proud. Now how loud can he get? If he gets over the top of this, then he's got a chance. It's starting to ebb as he flows. Plankart there, you saw, just going for a bottle to cool himself down. Van Hoek did get back in on the descent, but it's all about whether Magnus Cort can hold on here. He has already done it, don't forget, with that one run into Cuella. That was kind of like a wall, Sean. Was it a preview to today? He's the last hope for the break by the looks of things.
Yes, and on the last occasion to Cuella, it was a flat run in, of course, and then the ramp 2 kilometres uphill. Here he has just under the 8 kilometres to go, and that is going to be the real killer for him. After being out in the breakaway, and let's not forget he was in the breakaway yesterday also, so all that is going to tell. The fatigue is going to hit him on this climb, and the problem is advantage, 43 seconds at the moment, which was happening back in the peloton. You have a number of teams riding. If it was just one team controlling, you might say, well, they're going to start tiring now. That team have been riding all day, they start losing riders, and they could have trouble just closing down this final gap. But unfortunately for Magnus Cort, I think it's just too far to the finish, and also too much action in the main peloton.
He's got a chance, and that is that if he holds the 45 seconds, let's see how close he gets, when the ticker says 8 kilometres to go, that's where he'll reach the crest, and he's then got a downhill run. He's just got to repeat the feat, of course, on the punishing last 900 metres. But let's see what his gap is by the time he takes on the descent, which leads us to that last crucial 900 metres. He will have to start climbing from about 2k's out, but it's quite benign until we get to that wall section. There's the group of pursuers, which is the remnants of the breakaway behind Magnus Cort. There are quite a few riders all over the mountains here, and those that wanted to be in the break are probably now quite grateful, Sean, that they didn't get there, because they've got more power in their legs for a moment such as this.
Well, that is the case, and we can see here there's definitely intent within the Jumbo-Visma, because Kuboma now is just piling on the pressure here, and it's going to be a big disappointment for the rider who is the strongest in the breakaway, and you can see it's Magnus Cort. He's putting up a super battle, and you'll think about that at the end of the day when you get back to the team bus, and you'll be thinking, well, if we had been 6 or 8 minutes ahead and it went on to have to the fight between the breakaway men, well, I was the strongest, because he's proved that here, and that is really disappointing. But nothing you can do about it. When you're in the break, you just keep on working, and you're hoping that maybe there might something happen, but it's just a very, very rare case when you see the peloton taking control and controlling the breakaway from the very early kilometres of the race.
And here we are. This is John Bull, and indeed Jonathan Lastra just being reabsorbed by the pack as they come through. Some great work. Con Bowman was doing a great job. Jumbo-Visma have shared the duties admirably so. And teammate, of course, this is Amos Keta, who may have had an option today. But you look further back through this group, and the intent of Jumbo-Visma was displayed very, very early on. There is Egan Bernal. I'd love to see him hold his own today. Adam Yates just coming through past our picture. There's Wanty who've done a lot of the early chase work today. The leader's jersey, of course, sitting loud and proud as it does on Odd Christian Eiking's back. Or will it be back on Primož Roglic by the end of today? We'll see what the gaps are. It's apparently holding at 44 seconds. Plancart just about to be caught here, leaving, I think, Van Hoek, unless he's already been tagged, and Magnus Cort. Here is Harm Van Hoek, so still on his lonesome, but up ahead of him is Magnus Cort. 6.3 until we get to the top. Now, we told you about this little flattening section that they do introduce themselves to, just around the headland here. It's already been dealt with, has it, by this man? I think he's just about to find it, so a little bit of respite for him, a step, if you like, on this penultimate climb, and then he's got to go again and try and hold on to 46 seconds, for goodness sake, to that declared red jersey group. And the red jersey, of course, on Odd Christian Eiking is still upon his back. Will it be at the end of the day? 46 seconds then before is the gap. 6Ks before we get to the top. That's going to feel like a long way, Sean, especially as the inclines start to pick up. We're hitting 6.5% and 7% for the next few kilometres.
Yes, well, it is going to be a real difficult one for the leader on the road, because he's been out here in the breakaway, for a long time today. He's been given a huge effort, and with 5 riders, as you mentioned, Carlton, your turn to come to the front to pull on the breakaway, it comes very quickly. So it's going to start hitting him in this climb here, because he's pushing on a great performance, and he's fighting, and it's just a problem. The advantage, I think, 47 seconds is going to be just that bit too short for him, and it's a great performance by Magnus Cort here again, and you'd love to see it happening for the guys that make the breakaway, that you put in such an effort, but unfortunately when the peloton start riding like this, there's nothing you can do, only just give it your best, give it your all out in front.
This is that moment where they're lulled into a false sense of security. It's not the descent. They've still got about 5 kilometres of climbing still to be done, and but it will put some power back in the legs and maybe a bit of belief to Magnus Cort. Meanwhile, on the chase, as you can see, it's being engaged fully by Jumbo-Visma. Tucked in behind them, their nearest rivals overall, Movistar also doing their job. Miguel Angel Lopez looking good. Nice to see Luis Leon Sanchez mixing it up for Astana, trying to keep some hope alive. Maybe Vlasov today, but I would have thought someone like Ion Izagirre might have some options today. UAE far from giving up the ghost on potentially a stage win. It is for David de la Cruz, but they got Raf Majka and maybe even more so Mattia Trentin, who doesn't mind a few ramps. Bernal tucked in here as well, as you can see, and they're just starting to mix it, and Bike Exchange are just coming to the fore. Perhaps not happy with the pace. Not quite sure if they're going to start sacrificing riders. It is, of course, with the inclines that we'll deal with at the end, Sean, at the very last, just down to the individual rider. You're not going to get much assistance when you're dealing with ramps of 20% and more. It's your coping pace, that's all you've got.
Yes, well, I think for the final ramp, it's all about keeping your man in the position that he needs to be in, and Bike Exchange, they have done a huge amount of the work today, and they'll continue on to do it here. They need to make sure that Michael Matthews get into a position when they go on to this final ramp that he's very much in that top 5 or 8 riders, but they are starting to push on once again here. Maybe concerned that Magnus Cort can put up one of these real super performances, because he's still holding that 43-45 seconds, and the way the peloton have been going now over the last number of kilometres, this is a powerful ride by him.
If he gets to the top with 40 odd seconds, I still don't think it'll quite be enough. But it's going to make huge demands on the chase. They're going to have to take the risks in the descent, and we know what the dusty roads, they're slightly heavier here, as you can see from the surface, so the dust may not be too much of a factor. But I don't know, anything and everything they're going to have to put in, because Magnus Cort has gone all in at the moment. It's starting to fade though, my belief, Sean. 38 seconds now with 3.7 before he gets to the top. He needs an advantage to carry on the descent and then bounce into the finale, but I don't know, how much time do you think he would need over the crest in order to make this day stick?
Well, I think he would need that 45 seconds to a minute, because they're going to go down at such a fast rate in the peloton, because they all want to keep to the front of the main pack, and there will be teams with riders position their leaders there, and for that reason they will descend rapidly. And when you get onto the final climb after the efforts Magnus Cort is putting in here, you need that buffer, I think, of maybe 30-40 seconds. But it is coming down, and will he be able to hold on to the advantage that he's got? I think is going to come down more now, and he still have 3.4 kilometres to the top of this one, so this is going to be a real difficult one, and I think it's the advantage is just too small for him to have any chance of holding on.
I think you're right, Sean. Sad for Magnus Cort, especially the brave effort that he's put in. They've rebooted their entire campaign, EF Education Nippo, in after the departure, of course, of Hugh Carthy, which is a real shame for them. Simon Carr, I think, was the first one of the first riders. Oh no, I beg your pardon, but Simon Carr is also departed, so they are depleted, which is a shame. Magnus Cort already a stage win, which will have added some bonus to them. After that, Hugh Carthy went, but let us see how things pan out for them. 33 seconds, it's looking very, very slender as a chance, and you can see some of the Bike Exchange boys who've been working so hard up there. Was that Nieve who's put in a big turn? Just looked like he's grinding to a halt. Looking back through, still got Egan Bernal as being guided, Sean, for Ineos to a strong position here. He needs to. It's not a finish that would overly suit him, I wouldn't have thought, but they're working hard to make sure. It's Dylan van Baarle yet again, that big engine that is keeping him safe at the moment.
Yes, well, I think anybody in the top 10 or the top 15 of the GC standings, they're going to keep a good position here, get onto the final ramp in a good position where they're in a place where maybe they can have a go for the stage victory if they're really feeling good, but also not to lose any time. And that is the important part. The GC men like Bernal, who is 7th in the GC, he doesn't want to lose any more time. He's lost quite a lot, too much already, so you have to fight and you have to keep on pushing here, keeping the top 15 riders at least at this moment, maybe the top 20, and as you get closer to the final kick up to the finish, try and move up and be in that top 5 or 10 riders as you approach the final corner to the final run to the line.
Seeing Vlasov moving up as well. What's interesting is that Louis Meintjes just tracing on the back wheel of Adam Yates, who's getting himself up into a decent position as well. Louis Meintjes just tracing the back wheel of Adam Yates. I'd love to see Adam have a big dig. Here comes Sepp Kuss, who's got stronger and stronger throughout this race. Kenny Enesfonda, I noticed as well, was also just getting himself a bit of a view here. I think there's possibly more options on display than perhaps we had thought. 2.3 kilometres before we get to the top. It's just over half a minute. And it's Bike Exchange that are more worried about Magnus Cort, it seems, than just about everybody else. They've done a lot of work today, Sean.
Yes, well, they have done a huge amount of work, and it'll be interesting now to see if they can finish off the day. It's going to be a big one for him, but Michael Matthews have proven this year that he can be up there on the Tour of France. On day one, he was very close on that run to the line. And he's proved in this one, he's in top shape. In the sprints, there's just that the guys who are that bit faster than him in the flat outright speed sprints, and this uphill one, it's definitely going to suit him. He's proved that he's capable of doing this, and he's going to have to give it his all now and just see what way he can fare out. And you just never know. Some of the other GC men we're talking about might not be on the best of the day, so it could be a day that Bike Exchange pull off the victory.
Team UAE with a big drive, hanging a back wheel and basically demanding that others respond. Here we go, Sean. This is a lively one from David de la Cruz, the man that they've been protecting. This would be a big reach out. And why not? It looks like Izagiri, who's just thinking about trying to come over as well for Astana, but thinking again about it as well. This is a big move and a big moment.
Yes, it's a big move. It's a big move, but again, to ride away from a group here, it's going to be a difficult one to take any advantage. And then when you get to the final ramp, it's going to really hit you, because the effort you're making, in this 8 kilometres roughly. I know there's a lot of downhill, but again, you have to make a big effort here. And we see De La Cruz doing that already in this race. At a point when you'd ask yourself, why do you do it? Because there's a lot of teammates here with riders who will, push on, and I think you risk of losing time on the final run to the line then, because you put in such a big effort to try and get that advantage to go all the way.
Here's your marker. They're going to try and mark him out here. Sepkus staying with Roglic. Price fight that's gone off, couldn't quite see. 9.2 kilometres then from home. 1.3 though, 1,300 metres only before we get to the top. It's nice to see the ambition of David de la Cruz. He's 6 minutes and 49 down in 13th place, sitting as he does at quite a big margin. I guess you've got to find time whenever you can, but it's nice to see this bit. I'm wondering whether he's recalibrating and wondering what might be. Mikkel Nieve is still here within this group. Just looking at the group of Astana riders who are up ahead of us as well. Gorka Izagirre still very much involved. Leon Sanchez, who was quite animated earlier on today. But they're all looking a little bit second hand, with still a kilometre to go before we get to the top. It's down 23 seconds though. This is back to David de la Cruz, 30, I'll remind you, back to the group of favourites that you're looking at right now. And Paul's still in a decent position. Jan Tratnik was also part of the group, and he's also still here. And indeed, so is this man, Magnus Cort Nielsen. There's no doubt where the combativity award's going today, Sean. He'd like more than that, though.
Yes, well, he certainly would like more than that. The stage was what he was thinking of, already at the start this morning. Interesting one there at the back of the peloton. We can see Odd Christian Eiking. He's sitting very far back in that group. We could see he was the last 5 or 10 riders. He has to, be careful there, because on the descent, I know you can make a move up if you're a real good bike handler, but still it's a dangerous place to be, and he has to make the effort. You can see there he's almost third last man at the moment, or fourth last man. That's not the place he has to be at the moment.
No, but if he can just stay in touch, it may well be that the pace that this climb has been taken, Sean, has been wearing for everyone. It's just showing a little crack in the man that's wearing the leader's jersey for the time being. He has got a descent to play with, and we're just about to engage with it. In fact, I think we might already have Nielsen in the descent. With the pursuit that's been put up here by De La Cruz. No, not quite there just yet. This is going to come as a welcome respite to him. He'll come up and just head around a little headland and then down into a valley. So a little bit unkind that he's expected to do a little bit more climbing before finally allowed to descend. It's only 27 seconds, and it's a modest 6-second gap that De La Cruz has got, and he starts descending right now, and they start to pick it up, and it's the man in the King of the Mountains jersey who's decided to just pick up the pace and kick on here. This is nice work by Damiano Caruso. Has a look behind himself and thinks, well, maybe I've got a chance, and he has got a chance. Let's wait and see if he can deliver it. 7.5 from home. What a day. Damiano Caruso, spectacular winner, of course, of Stage 9 into Velafike. Just maybe thinking about doing something glorious yet again. Working for Team Bahrain Victorious, it might be in the gift of his teammates. This is the descent that's going to be absolutely crucial. As soon as we hit the bottom of this, Sean, we start climbing up to the wall itself and the finale.
Yes, and Caruso, of course, thinking of some mountain points there as we came over the top also. It's just going to be a rapid descent now, and Magnus Cort still, what a performance. I know I'm probably upping him a bit, but he has put in a big ride here today, and the way he's held on this climb, and now going to make the descent 23 seconds with the peloton breathing down his neck here. It's going to be a real difficult one, but when he won his stage it looked like he was going to be swallowed up on that final ramp to the line. Will he repeat that and surprise us? But 24 seconds, it has to be too slim of an advantage.
Van Baal just motors by Caruso here with Egan Bernal on his back wheel, and the search goes on for Primož Roglic, who is not that far down, as you can see. Two from Astana. We'll see who they are in a moment. Slightly dusty look to the inside of the corner, and Magnus Cort is still going for it. 25 seconds he holds with 6 kilometres to go. The gift of him, Sean, is that he can choose all his lines. He's on his own here. He hasn't got much of a guide, however, and I do worry there's some blown bone meal as well by the looks of things, just onto the inside of the curve here. Roglic will be fully aware of all the dangers of this descent, reminded of that yesterday, and it looks like a cleaner road here, thank goodness, with 6 to go. 5.6 for the man out front who holds 25 seconds. He believes, Sean, and if he doesn't believe, then at least he's hoping, and we hope as well. What a great result it would be if Magnus Cort delivers today and indeed denies the chasers.
Yes, well, he's doing a real strong ride here, and he's a tremendous descender, and you can see Ineos Van Baarle there on the front, and he's making the descent but not taking big risks. He's thinking of his leader Bernal and of course Yates. Do not make the descent crazy where everybody's trying to follow and riders go down and take out your leaders. We can see the way he's just taking it down the descent with a bit of care, and that's what they've got to do. And in the meantime, Magnus Cort still holding on. 28 seconds at the moment as we go through inside 5 kilometres to go.
Now just watching power out of these corners, lifts the pedal, doesn't want to ground that of course by unkind angles here, but he's driving every single part of this descent, not being tempted at all, giving himself some good vision. It's a good descender quite clearly, looks fluid on the bike. There'll be others a lot more nervous than he, and I'm probably including in that at the moment Egan Bernal, who is in his wake, and here he is being guided down by Dylan Van Baarle. 28 seconds, he's finding time here, Sean. If he has, let's just dream for a moment, if he has 35 seconds by the time he hits the last 900 metres, I don't know. Let's wait and see. This descent finishes with about 2.5 kilometres. It's not an immediate bounce into the horrible wall. So it's flat-ish until we get to the last 900 metres, and then all hell breaks loose. And we'll see. He's got half a minute, Sean, with 4 to go.
Yes, well, he is doing a real strong ride here, and you can see there, Ineos Grenadiers are just taking it down, and the 900 metres, as you say, to the line, Carlton, that is going to be a real difficult one, because the gradient there, you need to be real powerful, and has Magnus Cort, that power? We can see on the descent he's doing it very well, but if you're a good descender, well, then you can do that, and you can, the fatigue can be there, but you can get down the descents quite well. But when you get to these real killer of a gradient, that's where it's going to be difficult. And the combination as well, being out there all day today, yesterday was the breakaway as well. 27 seconds, it looks good with 3.3 to go, but with this ramp, such a steep gradient, that will be the killer for him to hold on.
Well, the roads look good as well, and how many more warning signs do you want? Lights, hoardings, and indeed padding as well. The clouds are starting to gather. Looks like we've had an insect expire on the helicopter lens here. It's not a raindrop, but there are some high cumulonimbus here that will probably burst overnight. But this man has kicked up a storm. He's got 28 seconds. Can he possibly hold on? 2.7 kilometres, but crucially it's the last 900 metres where it may well be the killing of him, but he's still holding the advantage for now on this descent. Let's just see how he musters himself for the last. Remarkable performance by Magnus Cort. Now the problem is there's one pace down here, Sean, and they all have to match it, so it honours even for the time being, and the gap's holding at around about half a minute. You can't push beyond the envelope of safety. Roglic did that yesterday. Everyone's aware of that, and they don't want to throw it away at a moment like this. And that is playing into the hands of Magnus Cort.
Yes, well, the men are controlling on the front. Van Baarle, he's not going to take the risk and put his leaders in danger. And a lot of the other GC men are thinking the same. With Magnus Cort out front, they are thinking of the stage, but they don't want to take that huge risk where they slide out on a corner and then you lose a stack of time. So you just get down safely. When you get onto the more safer sections, when it does level off a bit, then start pushing on again. And that's what we're seeing in the peloton now. And we can see Magnus Cort just fighting. And this is going to be just a full fight all the way to the line here. And the question is now, I don't think it can see Jumbo-Visma starting. So, new riders starting to appear all the time, fresher riders. That is going to be the killer for him.
It is. Jon Izagirre is getting himself into position. Gorka's not that far away either. Michael Matthews and his team have done so much work, and he wants to play the game today, and why not? Adam Yates is starting to think about it, but looks like he hasn't quite got the impetus just for the time being, but is coming up and just tracing, I think, Luis Leon Sanchez as it stands from Astana in the pale blue. Tow from Movistar, its usual suspects, Mas and Miguel Angel Lopez are absolutely where they need to be. Matthews wants to steal the stage. 19 seconds to go. 1,300 metres, 400 metres, 300 now until we hit the absolute hell of our wall at the end of the day. And with 18 seconds, it looks like even the intermediate section here, quite benign, is starting to hurt. And here is the wall. You'll just see tarmac to the sky, quite frankly, up ahead. And I think Magnus Cort knows that it's game over here. Brave it most certainly has been. When he comes around this corner, he'll take a left-hander. They're going to go into this dip, and all of a sudden, all hell is going to break loose. Roglic is in a great place. Menkes is up there as well. You've just seen as well. Roglic with support, likewise, and it looks like it may well be Roglic versus Matthews at the end of the day. Let's see. This is where it narrows. Look at the motorcycles. The engines yawing as well under the strain that they've got to deal with. This man following a camera bike for the time being. Nothing wrong with that. We want the pictures and he wants the assist. 19 seconds. Here they come. They're all lining themselves up right now, and Primož Roglic is going to have to go, but who does he guide in? That's the big question. Mas trying to stay with him. Sepp Kuss comes up to try and offer him a little bit of a back wheel. Can't or won't close that gap just for the time being. 700 metres, 19 seconds. Can Magnus Cort get there? And this is the toughest part of the whole thing. This is where the nightmare begins. A hammer blow raining down upon him in terms of gradient, and Roglic stays with Kuss at the moment. Mas comes around the outside. We see nowhere, of course. I'm afraid Matthews, he's out of this one, and Roglic still making a statement here. Mas likewise with Polster to stay with it. This is absolutely fantastic. They're kicking on, and Mas goes round Roglic. Oh, maybe the efforts of yesterday, and here is Magnus Cort. 500 metres, and he is going to get caught, I'm afraid. And it's going to be Mas. He looks into the face of Roglic and says, what do you got, my friend? Let's have a look. You want a little bit of a ride? Then do so, and I'll just ride your back wheel. Is it a conversation between them? Here comes Pols coming through finally to try and make an impact here. Adam Yates hasn't finished just yet, neither has Magnus Cort. He gets to a little bit of respite here, but it's almost a trick because there's a big kicker at the very end as well. This is fabulous. Adam Yates is still very much there. No sign of Michael Matthews, I'm afraid, as Cort continues to kick on. He's not giving up. How brave is this? But I think his heart may be broken at the very line itself, and Mas kicks again. He goes for it. Is it dust in the sand of Roglic, who stays with? Still going for it. Pole's still involved. Adam Yates hasn't kicked off just for the time being, and there's Lopez as well waiting to go for it. Bardet starting to struggle as well. There's face of pain over absolutely everybody, and still they go. They haven't reached the line just yet, and here comes Roglic, the heartbreaker, the man with the biggest heart, the biggest talent on this race, and he's showing it yet again. And you know what? He's going to find time. He's going to find time here. That is absolutely magnificent. Phenomenal. Mas comes across the line, and it's everybody else in the wake. Lopez gets up there. Wout Poels a brave finish. There comes Yates and the rest. My goodness, what a day. And the man that is weaving a whole tapestry of hurt is Magnus Cort. There he is, the man who nearly got there. Big heart, big day, and a big statement for Primož Roglic. Boy, oh boy, Sean.
Yes, what a run to the line. And we could see the rivalry between Mas and Primož Roglič there. They were looking at each other. I'm not sure if they were talking to each other, but they definitely were eyeing each other there. And in the meantime, Magnus Cort was hanging out there, and there was a glimmer of light that he might be able to hold on, but unfortunately when they kicked again, Mas, they came by him at such a rate. And we did see as well the other riders, the red jersey, coming over there and definitely holding on. Odd Christian 13 seconds with Guillaume Martin also just beside him, so the positions in the top of the standings are going to stay there, and the red jersey stays with the man from Intermarché Wanty.
What a magnificent finish, and chapeau to Magnus Cort. Seeing him weaving across the road there, Sean, trying to flatten out the last angles he was dealing with. Heartbreaking stuff, but such wonderful entertainment, and chapeau to them all.
Yes, well, what a ride by Magnus Cort, because he had that just that slender lead of 30 seconds, and just kept fighting all the way. But unfortunately, the steep ramp here, this really killer leg break of a finish, that was just too much for him in the end.
Gotta love your racing. Gotta love the Vuelta. Egan Bernal. Well, he tried his level best. He finished 9th today, 11 seconds down on Primož Roglič. Mas himself finished 3 seconds in the wake of Roglič. This is before bonus seconds factored in, by the way. So 10 bonus seconds to Primož Roglič, 6 to Mas, 4 for Miguel Angel Lopez. Good to see the Movistar guys still there. And first to congratulate Roglič was Mas, and now Lopez as well. I think we've got the Trident who are going to be battling it out if we didn't know it already. Good work by Jack Haig. I loved seeing that as well towards the end. He finishing on 7 seconds along with the same time as Adam Yates. Roman Bardet, Grosshartner in the frame as well. Barely got a mention in all the drama. Vlasov also. Egan Bernal at 11 seconds with that group with Odd Christian Eiking. So Eiking stays in the red jersey, so valiantly defended. You have to admire that. Here's that run in, Sean.
Yes, well, we can see here Mas was very impressive, because he put in a few big digs there, but Primož Roglič was able to match him all the time. And in that final run to the line here, with 50-60 metres to go, Roglič kicks, and he was by far the most powerful. And Roglič very confident there. You could see earlier on when Mas did go, he just marked him, and there was that discussion looking at each other, but he was prepared to wait. He knew, he was confident that he could take Magnus Cort in the final run to the line. But we can see here, in this sort of finish, as we talked about in the earlier part of the programme, he's unbeatable in this one. And the team, they did the job today. You could see that there was intent within Jumbo-Visma. And the question is, yesterday we see him going in the on that climb, and then the descent, of course, where he had to spill. It's a surprise to see them going for the stage today, because the position isn't in the overall standings, but they definitely had a tactic today to ride for the stage victory.
Well, they got it. And if they kept something in reserve yesterday, it may not be the leader's jersey for Primož Roglič, but it's the effective lead, Sean, especially as you measure him against his main rivals.
Yes, well, very much so. Again, the main rivals just really fighting to lose the least amount of time possible, and Mas is the one who has been the one who was able to stay with Primož Roglič, go in the attack with him, but the other one's just a big fight to lose the minimum amount of time possible. And this ramp, it was always going to be minimum.
What a turn Sepp Kuss gave Roglič as well at a crucial moment. He finishing in 15th place, but Roglič thriving with that help. Bernal, their leader of the Young Riders classification, finishing 11 seconds down. Odd Christian Eiking in the red leaders jersey, also at that margin. And all credit to them. There's your bonifications writ large upon your screen. Roglič gets another 10 seconds. Mas 6, so a difference between them of 4 at the end. And here is Odd Christian. What a great performance, Sean, and so gutsy to have fought to hold on to the lead of this race, which he does.
Yes, a great performance by him, because he looked like he was in trouble on the second category climb, sitting a long ways off, but rode very well here, limits his losses very well, and lost a tiny amount compared to the battle was up front for the stage honours.
a magnificent day of racing on this Vuelta.
Oh, thank you, man.
Primož Roglic getting a well-earned shower out of a bottle, and time for us to ponder what has been a phenomenal day. Alsepkus offered up a turn to Primož Roglic. Mas almost squeezed at a crucial moment there when the road pinched to about 2.5 metres only. Not much space available to play with at all. They were mustering behind Magnus Cort, and he could see the finish line, and that's almost the cruelest of blows. Round they came, and it was Mas that kicked on. Few others wanted to come and join the party. Jack Haig with a superb finish at the end of the day. Adam Yates had a good finish as well, but nobody can finish like Primož Roglic, even Enric Mas, who'd asked the biggest question on the day, and away he went, absolutely superb, to the line and taking it. Primož Roglic owns the race, it seems, if not the jersey, just for now.
So we are here with Adi Engels, obviously the winning team today. How about that final, Adi?
Yeah, it was exciting.
More than exciting.
And very close. Yeah, I mean, yeah, exciting and a lot of suspense. That's actually what I mean. It was that close. Thank you, man.
And what happened between Enric and Primož? Because they obviously were talking to each other.
I don't know. I just got out of the car, so no, I really don't know. Like I said before the start, if it's controllable, if we can, we like to go for the stage, and I'm really happy that we succeeded.
And you did it.
And we did it. But it was a hard job, but it was for everyone. I mean, with the final like this, everybody has to go all out. So
congratulations.
Thank you.
Go all out. They did. All in, I think you might say. Old Chrissy Eiking did that. And he leads this race to Guillaume Martin by a margin of 58 seconds. Martin clearly also with a decent finish today. That's how it stacks up overall. Primož Roglic nearest to them, but with an extended lead over his main rivals for the race.
Enric, felicidades. ¿Qué dijo Primož en la montaña en el final?
Congratulations, Enric.
No, que perdón, porque en
what
un
did you say to each other there in the
hemos
final?
tocado un poco ahí. Nada, tenemos buena relación. Y
we
nos hemos pedido
apologised
disculpas
for
mutuamente.
getting into each other at the pinch there. He said sorry
Sí,
actually,
satisfecho, pero
but we have a
sinceramente
very
no me
good
esperaba
relationship,
esa rampa.
so
A
I'm
falta de
happy and
100
satisfied
metros, me había
with
visto
the
el
way
vídeo
it
de
went.
Purito que ganó aquí en el
But
2015.
I've seen this wall, but
55
honestly,
veces, y
I've
parece
watched
que
the
no ha
video,
bastado,
but
porque
I
he
wasn't
hecho la
expecting it to be as
curva
tough as it
derecha,
was.
He agachado la cabeza y he
Absolutely
dicho,
remarkable.
ay, ay.
Those percentages were very, very tough indeed.
Muy, muy duro.
Gracias.
How tough was it? He said very. Thank you very much. Well, nice that the conversation that was between them was an apology for the collision that happened just as the road pinched that narrow 2.5 metres. Proving what a gent I think is. Both Primož Roglic and Enric Mas. Ultimate respect for each other, and we're going to be hearing from Primož Roglic, our stage winner. Takes his second stage win after winning the opener, of course, into Burgos. Now on the road, and what a road it was.
It was a beautiful victory, but first we'd like to hear you talking about your adversaries. Magnus Cort, who was caught just before the end, and Enric Mas.
Sorry, about what?
Magnus Cort from EF.
Yeah.
You caught him just before the end.
Yeah, I was close again. I think the other day he was first and I was second, and I was a little around, but yeah, it was a hard stage. Anyway, it was short but super hot again, and yeah, I was also suffering a lot, but yeah, luckily here at the end I had enough for a win.
Tell us about the fight at the end with Enric Mas.
Yeah, he's also really super strong, and yeah, luckily I had a little more at the end today here.
How important was it for you to win today?
Yeah, it's always yeah, nice to win. You never know when it's the last one. So it's was a nice finish with steep uphill, which yes, normally I can do well. So yeah, it was a nice challenge. The team did amazing job, pushing really hard through the whole day, keeping the breakaway on the distance. So big thanks to them. That was this possible at the end.
And was this the way to put yesterday's crash behind and get the confidence back?
Yeah, also yeah, it's always anyway, it was still yeah, like I said, it was a good day yesterday, and I wanted to take positive things, but yeah, we did this today. We go on. It's stopped. It's beautiful.
Voilà.
Thank you. Voilà.
We go on. It's beautiful. It must feel that way if you're winning. But what does it feel like when it's just snatched from you? You're going to hear from Magnus Kort, who may well have gathered just a little bit of breath. Certainly hope so. What a performance that was.